Party.
Is that what we're calling it now? Good evening and welcome to the February 15th, 2023 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any revisions to the agenda?
There are a couple, I think, that are noted in the agenda, but nothing today.
And summary of non-public actions from January 18th, 2023. Ms. Hirschberger made a motion to approve the non-public minutes from January 4th, 2023. Ms. Ames seconded the motion. The motion passed 5-0-0. Summary of non-public actions from February 1st, 2023. Ms. Hirschberger made a motion to accept the resignation of Kathy Toby as LMS reading teacher. Ms. Ames seconded. The motion passed 3-0-0. Ms. Ames made a motion to accept the nomination of Amanda Dion as part-time LMS reading teacher at a salary of $30,971 prorated. Ms. Hirschberger seconded the motion. The motion passed 3-0-0.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question on the minutes, on the non-public minutes?
Yes.
In the minutes for 2-1, the public minutes, it says that Vice Chair Heidi Ames commented that the board intended to have a meeting, but 3 members could not attend because of personal reasons. And result is they did not have a quorum and would not vote on any topic. So I'm not following how
I joined for non-public.
how we were able to get into non-public and take a vote if it was said in public that we weren't going to vote.
If you go to the end of those minutes, Ms. Hirschberger showed up at like 7:25 p.m.
Okay.
At that point, there was a quorum of the board present, and the meeting was called to order, and a motion was made to go into non-public. And I believe you'll find that at the end of those minutes. Because it was, it really was a non-meeting because there were only 2 members present until that point in time. And those 2 personnel actions were, I believe, the only things that were acted on. But we needed to act on them because we had people who needed to get to work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Presentations and recognitions. A report from Jake Hess, CHS Principal.
I brought senior Kiana Henderson with me this evening. She's going to talk a little bit briefly about her senior project that she's working on. I think she's got, kids do a lot of things with their senior projects, and I think anyone that's got as big of a community outreach, I think, as Kiana's does, I like to celebrate that. So, take it away.
Okay. So this year for my senior project, I'm doing the Pantene hair drive for people with hair loss due to chemo. It used to be a senior project about a few years ago. COVID kind of took that away from us. So Mr. Perez nicely asked me if I would take that back on this year. And I just thought that would be a really nice way to do my senior project because it's giving back to people who really need it the most. So I'll be donating my hair along with about 15 other girls so far. We also incorporated guys if they want. They can buzz cut their hair, shave their hair, just basically for the cause, just to show that they would like to donate if they could. But yeah, so that will be going on during our Spring Fest week at the end of May, I believe May 25th. And it'll be like about an hour assembly at the end of the day. So we'll have guest speakers, there'll be performances like singing, and then we'll just have some people share some stories about loved ones and reasons they're cutting their hair. And then we'll have the big final cut toward the end of the assembly. So that'll be really great for all of us. And we're trying to include the rest of the community as well. So when this is I announce it publicly and there's a big announcement about it, the elementary school and middle school will also be able to be involved, and they'll be able to come into the high school if they want and also donate their hair, as well as other people in the community.
How many inches are you donating, Kiana?
I'm donating 8. You have an option to do 8, 10, or 12.
Oh,
my hair's not long enough to do the rest, but yeah, I wanted to at least donate 8, but I think there's girls that are doing 10 and 12, so I really appreciate
Mr. Todd
that.
and I can support you.
Thank you guys, yeah.
Kiana, make sure you invite us as a board,
Okay.
we can get out from our jobs or whatever.
Yeah.
We'd
I
love
can
to
Heidi
do
would
help.
participate, but
I
she
would.
just
Yeah,
got
she
her
missed
hair
it.
Did you just
I
try?
wish
Yeah.
I'd known. I did Litchfield in the summer.
That's actually, yeah, that's one of them. There's 3 donations or 3 places you're able to donate to, and you get to pick them as a student. So,
Awesome.
yeah, but I'll definitely
Awesome.
give you guys the
And you
details when I have
take
that
colored hair.
finalized.
Not that I color.
Processed hair.
One of them takes
They do.
colored
Oh,
processed
they
hair. Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah. So that's the plan for that. But
Thank you.
So Kiana got to present to the school today during our monthly full school assembly. Kind of rolled it out there, and she'll hold a meeting during advisory to get more kids interested. And I just think that's one of the kids are doing amazing things, and I think you ask a 17, 18-year-old kid to put an impact on a community outside of just her own as well. And I just think this is a really great thing. So I wanted to give her a chance to come and share it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiana.
Good job.
Now you can get your mom to cut her hair. I'd definitely go to see that.
Thanks. That's it.
all right.
Go. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll briefly touch on some things from my board report. Clubs and co-curriculars, we got a lot going on. I think Emma will probably talk a little bit about student councils today as well, but they're, again, consistently moving the building forward with a lot of fun activities. SAD did some work at the beginning of the year. Key Club, FBLA, they're getting ready to go on some conferences. The Drama Club's working on their spring production that's going to be in April. So just a lot going on with that. Winter athletics, we've got our boys basketball team won their first playoff game last night. We had some great show at state meets for swimming. We've got things coming up for gymnastics and track. So all of our co-curriculars and athletics are kind of in full swing. And today during our assembly, I got to award Shannon Zepan a certificate that she won a couple months ago. I was able to nominate her for a chart award through the Governor's Council of Physical Activity and Health, and Shannon was selected one of 31 recipients from around the state who are being recognized for personally demonstrating and modeling character and resiliency to their students and colleagues. And so that was a wonderful thing to kind of celebrate Shannon today there.
Great.
Great.
A lot of cool stuff happening around the building. One of the things I highlighted, if you see my report, Michelle Lincoln, one of our math teachers, is doing this really cool project with her honors geometry class about scale of objects, and kids got to create things. I threw some pictures there on the bottom. A pencil sharpener, extra gum, the chapstick there, those 2 tubes, like they really removed and like you could see the chapstick. So just some really cool things happening, some hands-on math, and that was a really nice thing going on. I got reports from every curriculum facilitator, gave me reports from what every classroom in their department is doing. So it was just, we got a ton of great stuff going on at the high school, from our core classes to our unifieds. There's a lot happening. Kids doing some. The thing that really stood out to me is how many of it is hands-on, real-world applicable. There was very few things that were like, oh, we're just studying this thing that they'll never use again. So that was very promising to see and read, and that was great. And then, our items of note. In the fall, SNU reached out to us to see if we would host some student observers. We took 3 in our English and Social Studies department, and then through that, they were doing a raffle to attend the Model Schools Conference at the end of June in Orlando, all expenses paid. Myself and Noah Benoit entered the raffle, and out of 35 people, we were selected 2 out of 5. So at the end of June, we will represent Campbell High School and head on down to Orlando on SNU's dime, and get to find out just some really neat stuff happening at different schools around the country. So they've got some really great speakers talking about everything from engagement in the classroom, competency-based, culture and climate within the building. So a lot of the things that we set as goals. So I think that'll be a really great opportunity. And I think, Dr. Jetty shared, he presented in 04.
03.
03.
Yep.
So just a great conference that, this is like year 36 or something for the conference itself. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to be able to go down and learn a lot about what some other schools are doing. So, and any questions on that before I touch on the goals, mid-year progress stuff? So for our mid-year progress, our first goal, we talked about PLCs, kind of revisiting their purpose, setting new norms, that sort of thing. So what I've done is I've created a PLC framework or template for all departments. Not as this is what you need to do, but more along the lines of let's just formalize the process a little bit so that we can kind of all make sure we're on the same page with what a PLC actually is used for and how we want to use it. Yes.
Can you
Professional Learning Community, PLC, sorry.
Thank you.
So this is a way for them to have some structure to their meetings. It's also a way for them to collect notes to share back with administration. The last section of each template is what resources do you need from admin or central office. So it really gives them an opportunity to reach out and ask for that help, and for us to be able to respond and be that resource for them when it comes to, what they're seeing in the classroom, areas that kids are struggling, and anything that we can kind of help with. I've got a monthly schedule to rotate through all the department PLC meetings to touch base with everyone. And then overall, we just kind of re-normed what a purpose is. A department meeting to sit down and talk about, what's going well and what's not, or maybe touching base about an assignment is one thing, but sitting down and using student work to talk about, instructional practices and what's working and what's not, that's really the focus that we want to move to. So we're really moving along well with that goal.
Just if I may remind the board that during negotiations, one of the key contract languages that the parties all agreed to was the use of 150 minutes a week for this purpose. And so it's good to see the high school is developing structures and models on how to have some accountability around the use of that time. I can promise you that the 150 minutes pays dividends at 300 minutes when it's done correctly. So I applaud Principal Hess for putting it together and just reporting out on that progress.
Do you get to go to many PLCs?
Now, well, I rotate through all. I'll
Awesome.
rotate through all of them now. So the only difficult one is our unified. So our unifieds don't have a common plan, obviously. So Shannon Zepan and I are meeting to figure out how we can keep this structure but make it look differently to fit their needs as a department. So that's good. We had a goal to kind of redevelop our advisory program and really turn that into something where we start to see dividends impacting the students. One of the things that we've done thus far is we've created a framework for like what a possible flex/intervention block could look like to address those academic supports that would be needed, interventions, enrichments, reassessments, those sorts of things. But we also recognize that advisory and flex are two different things. So how do we keep both within a scheduled day, still offer a ton of time, and make that advisory community building time important? And we've created some monthly themes to outline a focus for what each month can do with an advisory that focuses on our core values and our work study practices. We're really working on making the work study practices part of what we do, not just a thing that happens. So we're developing that and building that right in, but we still want to allow creativity for teachers to kind of approach it their way instead of saying, hey, here's this blueprint, do it. Because we know teachers have a different approach to things. So creating some frameworks, but still allowing teachers some anonymity when it comes to that. Next, we talk about using data. This falls right into our PLC, our professional learning community work that we're doing. We've talked a little bit about class common assessments where applicable. 2 common 9th grade English classes, is that a great opportunity for us to kind of norm a little bit what grading looks like between those classes? So, an A in Mr. Hess's class isn't a C- in Mr. Jetty's class type thing. We've started conversations with the math department around SAT scores and what we're seeing. We're talking a little bit about what do we currently teach and when, how does this impact SAT scores, and, you know, do we need to do some possible shifts in our curriculum to kind of adjust around those sorts of things. And we've started a preliminary conversation about a common writing rubric that we could potentially implement to be used across all classrooms. We know that writing happens in every classroom. We know that reading happens in every classroom. Yet when we talk about SAT scores, we sometimes only talk about the English classrooms. So I put together a very preliminary, 4-point writing rubric that addresses kind of just structures of writing. I had the English department take a look at it, and now we're going to branch that out to the rest of the school, where potentially a math teacher doing, a word problem or a writing problem, a lab in science, we have a common rubric to assess quality writing at the high school. So that's some work we're doing there. And then lastly, fostering a positive staff climate and culture. I'm in classrooms and hallways and school events more than I'm in my office, more than I'm at my home sometimes. We have our monthly school-wide assemblies that I'm unashamedly calling Hess's Huddles. They're only behind the scenes. And today we recognized, Shannon Zepan and Colonel Frazier for just being people that make our building special. And being able to do that in front of 415 kids, I think is really great. Emma, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they're boring. I don't know. I enjoy them.
Very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Just quietly laughing.
Oh my fan club's here. Patrick's here. Awesome. And on Friday mornings, I do coffee with admin. It's just a great way to kind of start a Friday morning and end a week. At 7:00, we meet in the Learning Commons. We have coffee and we just talk. And I, that's something that was like, oh, you got to make sure you do this. And I was like, I get to work early on a Friday. It does give me something to look forward to. So I really enjoy that. So we still have some room to go. The advisory program, if anyone knows how to develop a strong advisory like that, I would love the feedback. We're still working and tweaking on how to do that and do it well. But I think we're moving along with what we wanted to do this year. So we're plugging away.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did we want to talk DC?
Oh, yes.
Can I just ask a question about the rubric? So each class has, each curriculum has their own rubric, correct?
Yeah, so there's
Whenever
different.
we see the curriculum, those
There's
have
different there's-
rubrics. So the writing one is just how is that being used?
to just look at, so if you do a lab report, it wouldn't be assessing the content, it wouldn't be assessing that. It's just looking at, this is what we've decided as a school quality writing conventions are. And so Mr. Keefe assigns an analytical essay. He
Yeah.
might not use that rubric because it doesn't talk about analysis and that sort of thing. It
Yeah.
just looks at conventions and structure, that sort of thing.
So that would go toward
So it's
work study practice, or sorry, not work study.
It would be some-
It would go toward a particular competency that would have to do with reading.
Correct. So
Right.
in science, they did a lab report, and instead of
Okay.
just doing, hey, let's make sure that the science of this is correct,
Yeah.
we could also talk about what good writing looks like in a science class, not just in our English classes.
So maybe theoretically, you could be doing the same thing with analyze. Analyze concept. What does that analysis look like? Is that the kind of thing that?
And there's gonna be competencies for that in every content. This specifically is gonna look at writing. Writing is an area on the SATs that we see that we can get improvement, and it shouldn't just fall on the English department to teach writing.
Right.
But a science teacher necessarily isn't skilled in teaching writing. They write, we all write,
But
they
they
are
can have
skilled writers.
expectations of
Understand,
capital
understand.
letters and
Okay, I see, I got
punctuation.
it.
But if we all
Structure.
have a common framework.
Understanding and
Yes.
framework.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Great.
DC?
Yeah, just quickly on DC. So we have shared with the board a link to the Washington DC spreadsheet, so you can see the student amounts and how much they had raised. And just for the public, this is not available to the public because it does have student names and dollar amounts on it that was more of a confidential document. But I think the board has to see it so that you can understand what we're looking at and what we're doing. So we've taken that spreadsheet and added in columns N and O. Column N is how much the individual students have paid for parking to date. Because if you remember, several months ago, there was a parent suggestion that we take a look at maybe waiving parking fees or refunding parking fees. So if you look in column N, you can see the students who had fundraised. So we're not talking about students who had zero in their account because there would be nothing to reimburse. It comes to a sum total of parking fees of $4,773. And why the weird amount if it's $100? It's because some students had raised, say, $62.50, so they could only get that amount back, right? So that's why it's a weird dollar amount in terms of the total. And then if you take the amount that the students raised and deduct those parking fees away to say how much would be unreimbursed,
Left.
right? Or
Remainder.
could be reimbursed next year if they do senior parking, right? You have a total in that column of $9,022.50. So what we're trying to demonstrate is that the parking fee thing is gonna, if the board guidance is to do this, it will address some of it, but not all of it. And I think the other piece that Principal Hess and Doug and I discussed when we looked at this was that there are some students who had raised a pretty high amount of money, and even 100 here and 100 there isn't going to come close to the amount that they had raised, and so that leaves a dilemma of they'll get something back but not all. Some kids would get all, and so that's the reality of the situation. And to date, we haven't come up with another source of funding or how to how to do it. We don't know where $9,000 is sitting that we could tap into, but we could reasonably predict that if we were to pursue this, you'd almost double the 4,000 probably, or the 4,700, because that would be the senior year. You might even do a little more than that if there are kids driving senior year who didn't drive junior year. But the minute we reimburse, the minute we go down this road, then we're committed to that, and there will be a pot of money unreimbursed at the end of that. But it's going to come, close, but it's not going to do all of it.
And I think one of the things that we've talked about, and I think it's still one of those things that's not fully understood, this money that was fundraised, it's in their account. There is no account. We don't have this money. It went to the trip. Some of it was reimbursed for the down payments, but it's gone. So if we are to reimburse these families, it's coming from.
Can we just clarify? It's not gone.
It was never there.
Yeah, it was.
No, it
Do you know
was.
what I mean? Like,
It was fundraised and collected, and
Correct.
it was
Yeah.
sent to
To-
Capital
right.
Tours.
It was paid,
Or
and they did
deposits.
not reimburse us.
Correct.
Ultimately,
Right,
so
but,
that's
but
how
we have
it's
some
gone.
parents that reach out and say, "Well, our kid raised this much. Take it out
Right.
of his account." We don't have an account with kids' money in it. It went to the trip, and COVID. It is gone.
The plan was that when the next class went to DC, which hasn't happened and probably isn't going to happen, they would have paid their deposits that the company was holding, and that's how we would have had money for the high school. But obviously, the pandemic went longer than anybody anticipated. The company finally said that money's lost. We've lost it because we paid vendors who didn't provide services to us. It's the big domino effect of the pandemic. There were plenty of people who lost money on trips and other stuff that just didn't occur. So it's not an unusual situation. It's not unique to Litchfield, but it's exactly right. There is no money. This is reimbursing fundraised money out of parking fees, which is real money that was collected, and we would be deferring growing that pool and potential projects relative to parking lots, right? We would have to defer that because we would choose to use that to make people as whole as we could, but it would delay crack repair or pothole repair or something along those lines.
And we almost spent a majority of that fund this summer because we were going to redo the entire parking lot at the high school, resurface, signage, new lines, everything. But we held off because it got late in the summer, and now here we are having this conversation about these funds. So.
Have you received any feedback from families?
There are families who think this is a good idea, that they feel that their children participated in good faith in raising funds and having some reimbursement for that, or some good faith effort to compensate them, if you would, for that effort, makes sense. I know that we have one family, I just looked, had heard from one parent who hasn't paid the fee yet because they're waiting to see what we're gonna do. And that's what prompted us to come here tonight, because honestly, we did all this work and, you know, we got caught up in budget season and just,
Yeah.
Right.
it's sitting on hold. But the dollar amounts that are in red are the ones that were paid between, say, November and today, because I think you updated it today.
Yeah.
So this is live, these are actual dollar amounts.
And then to make it more, there are 8 spots left at the high school. So, yeah, there are 8 spots left.
February, wow.
So are you looking for a vote?
Looking for guidance, to be honest, because again, once we cut one check, we're now into the commitment on this, and
And I just
So-
want to be clear on what I'm looking at in numbers, right? So column K, the end, has 13,744.50, right? And the proposal, if we consider the parking fees as or a credit, for lack of a better term, is 8,971.50.
no, it would be column H, 4,773, that's money that we've already collected, we would return that back. And then it would leave $8,971.50 unreimbursed. But if, you know, next year we were just, instead of writing checks, we would just say, yep, you have $100 left, your fee is waived, but we would deduct it off of there, we would add that in, so.
All cash that families paid in themselves for the deposit have been reimbursed,
Yeah,
right?
if you look
We are
at,
only talking about the fundraising money here. This
get
is
that.
not money that families have paid out of their own accounts to participate.
if you
Unless
look
they
at
bought
column B and C,
Yep.
those were the 2 deposits. So there was an initial $100 and then a second $100 that was due. And that money
Yep.
is 100% refunded.
Exactly.
Everybody got
Yep.
the money out of pocket back. So that was taken care of. The other money was raised and held by the school, because it was fundraising money, but they credited it to kids. So, you know, in cookie sales, somebody got $42. In sub sales, somebody got $77. In donut sales, somebody got $60.50. But that was held in the student activity fund, and it was actually sent to Capital Tours. That was the down payment for the trip. So the families never actually had that cash in hand. It was just credited to the individual kiddo based on what they had raised. And that's the money that disappeared. So it's really columns E through J that was used to pay the down payment.
That's the 13,744.
Correct.
Got it.
And so now the question became, can we generate 13,744 in parking fees? And the answer is not really. We've generated 4,700, and we could reasonably predict another 4,700-ish next year. I think that's a reasonable prediction, but it'll still leave a gap.
You know, as much as I liked the idea of this initially, not everybody has bought parking fees. So, like, there are people who wouldn't get this benefit. But I understand that, you know, we had to be careful about what, I don't know, yeah, that's hard.
So let me just offer one more thing, which is we've taken this long to sort of figure this out and to realize on the surface, great idea, but the devil's in the details, and the details aren't 100%. It doesn't make everybody whole. We could certainly take another,
This then becomes like a
period, you know what I'm
multi-year process if,
But it's only 2
and
years,
not
'cause they're
everybody's
juniors, right?
guaranteed to be made whole at the end. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing.
it
Yeah.
would be a 2-year process. There would be some kids who are made 100% whole, and there will be some kids who,
Oh, because
It
they're all
doesn't-
juniors right now.
Correct.
and some kids who it
Okay.
doesn't even touch.
Yep.
Some
Yep.
kids who it doesn't even touch,
Right,
because they just don't get a
exactly.
parking permit, and they'll get 0 back out of this way of doing it. So that's the reality of it. And I don't think we need an answer tonight. if we need time to think about it, or if parents have thoughts, to let us know, but
Just reach out to central office if you have thoughts.
Why does it even make sense to reimburse
Duck's on.
the families for this fundraising that was going to go toward the event? What if, I mean, just throwing this out there, what if we take the value of that total amount and then give that to the class to spend in some way for an activity or something? Do you know what I mean? So
The money has.
Because
have
this
that
was
part.
money that was fundraised by these certain
individuals.
students, and there were students that did not participate at all in any of the fundraising.
right.
So if we did it, I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
if we did it class-wise, there might be a benefit.
But I mean, as much as I hate to see it, yes, there was time invested. I completely understand, but this was not money that was out of.
Well, for some it
Parents'
was, your
pockets.
parents if you bought donuts, or if you
guess
bought
so,
the
that's true.
subs
I
as
got
a
the
parent.
benefit of the donuts too,
Yeah.
though.
I don't know if they were $200 donuts.
My daughter has about 100 Scholastics books that she hasn't purchased on her own. I'll tell you who has. So.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not ready to vote yet tonight. My question is, and I don't know the answer because I haven't had a kiddo get up. Do students have to pay to rent cap and gowns?
They buy them.
They buy them.
They
Yes.
buy them themselves.
Correct.
But then we'd have to buy them.
No, that's. I was wondering if they rent them or something.
That would benefit every student in the class.
But that's not an option. Okay.
we should give you an update on cap and gowns in a second, but that's another.
Well, why
What?
wouldn't that be an option? We're literally
I guess so.
taking money out of our accounts to be able to reimburse these people.
But we're giving them something that we don't pay for, parking.
And it's
The
a
user fee.
student
Right,
activity
right,
account, it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
taxpayer
I
dollars,
see.
it's not budget
Yes,
line.
right.
it's-
Yeah.
The families have put the money in,
Yeah.
and we would just be giving it back in recognition of the time and effort to raise that.
Yeah, right.
Money.
Okay.
Do we have any sense of how many students the parking fees would impact and how many it wouldn't impact? Like what the ratio is? Is it 50-50? Is it?
You can see on the.
So if you,
I think the answer is, if you look at the end of column K,
Yeah.
the number 82 appears, which is
Yeah.
the count of people with fundraise.
Yeah.
Money that was raised. So,
But
it's
we don't know
80
how many kids would get parking fees back.
We could do that count too. It's the same formula.
This only gives us the sum. Usually in Excel, it gives you the count of the cells.
They would have to get rid of all the zeros.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
'cause there's zeros in there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but they have another function.
The
It's
zeros
okay.
have another function?
Yeah.
If we
Okay.
were to pay all the families back the money that was
I don't want to
raised,
get rid of this.
is that the 4,773 or is that the 8,971?
It's the
I
13.
think it's neither. I think it's those.
13,000, but has some of this already been credited or not?
No.
No, that's the decision that we need to make.
We have not credited anything, and actually, I didn't do the check
but
on
we
it.
will be crediting parking passes.
If we vote to do
Vote
that.
to it.
Oh, good, it balances. So if you add the 47,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that
it does.
we had done the correct math, and we
Yeah.
did, so.
Yeah, I guess I mean, the right thing to do is to reimburse these families, right? I understand it's obviously a very tight budget year, right? But that's what feels right to do, and I find it a little as a tough pill to swallow in a $24 million budget that we're talking about 13 grand that we can't reimburse families with.
What if those kids buy parking passes? If 20 of those kids buy parking passes, that's $2,000 right off the top.
But it doesn't impact all of the students. So there's going to be students who don't
Right.
have parking passes that fundraised
Well,
several $100s that
Won't
It's
see
not.
any of it.
We could
Get a
pay them
benefit.
back.
how do we, if I had my choice between $100 in parking or to be reimbursed my full
And
amount?
again,
Oh, no, I would give 'em whatever was left.
I'll play devil's advocate. I know the parking fund isn't my money. It's a user fee, high school. But now I'm using high school funds to reimburse something that happened when these students were at LMS. So, get it, not my money, But if I have a catastrophic fail of my
Interesting,
parking
yeah.
lot, I'm out of luck.
I think the problem I'm having and the struggle I'm having is, and I think some of the families were having, is the fact that the fundraising money was used to reimburse the deposits, because if it had not, then everyone would be owed their deposit, and therefore something that benefited the whole class would impact the whole class, versus it's just the students who took the time to fundraise that are, that money was taken and used. And I understand at the time what the rationale was, but we didn't, it sounds like those families didn't know about that until we recently went through this exercise of figuring out where the money was. And so I can understand the struggle. That's the struggle I'm having with it, is that we took the fundraising money to pay back the deposits, and those were two separate.
Which is why I'm thinking the right thing to do is to reimburse the money. As hard as it is to swallow this year.
Can we see where we are at year end
Well,
and make this a
that's why
number
I
one
think-
priority for
I think
year
it's
end of
important to
funds?
get a financial operations update and see
Yes.
kind of where
So
we
if-
land. And
Can I ask a question, Andrew?
Yeah.
So if we reimburse Johnny $500 because he sold that much money in donuts and subs, does Johnny take that $500 and go back to the people that bought donuts and subs? Because that
Yeah.
was never Johnny's money,
Exactly.
but now we're gonna cut him a check for $500.
what he does with it is his prerogative, right?
To that point, that's why we
interesting.
reimburse the out-of-pocket money, right?
Right.
Right.
Family gave us 100, we gave them back that 100. The 7150 was profit, right, above and beyond. I mean, they must have, I don't know what it would take to generate 7150, but a couple $100 worth of donuts. You gotta pay Krispy Kreme first, and then the balance is what goes in. And so to Jake's point, that came from a lot of people, and the family was never actually out that unless they bought the donuts, but they got the benefit of the donut. It's, yeah, we've had all this discussion. That's why we're here. It's not as simple and clean as it seems on the surface, so.
It's not.
But I would like to see where we are at year end, because even if we decide not to necessarily hand it back in a check, but rather credit each student account for senior activities that'll be happening, and so that 13,000 is deposited into an account with this spreadsheet that specifically says Susie gets 200 and Johnny gets 500.
So he doesn't have to pay for his cap and gown
Cap
and all the other
gown.
stuff,
There's gonna be a
yeah.
lot of senior activities that happen that I think they could spend down. Even the person who fundraised a lot of money would be able to, my guess, I don't have a senior, but you could tell me, but there's a lot of expenses for senior year between the cruise and whatever activities end up happening.
I don't remember. I just write out checks.
So collectively, I think we're making the decision to table it, understand the
Yes.
financial operations update. Perhaps this is an area where we can
Visit the
redirect
end of May.
funds for another purpose and go from there.
Can we look at this at the end of May, beginning of June?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and what we can
In the
do is,
meantime, we'll tell families, buy a parking pass, and then
there may be a reimbursement in the future, depending on how it shapes up. I think anybody listening to this discussion tonight knows it's not as simple as it
Right.
first seemed.
Right.
And I think the other thing is we can take a look at what this year's seniors are paying out of pocket. So what was the cost of the cap and gown? What was the cost of the trips and so forth?
Did
And,
they already pay for those?
and try to figure that out. But
They
those are, those aren't these students, remember,
No,
these are
no,
juniors, so.
yeah, that's
But
next.
it can give us a sense of whether there's another opportunity to, if something got covered by the budget that normally isn't, as a way to offset that, right? So.
I think we have the overnight field trip request.
Yes,
Go back
is
to
that-
Want to
Princeton
just
again.
quickly, caps and gowns, since it came up, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So, first time publicly, I changed the caps and gowns for graduation. I wanted to do something that represented one class. So I did. We went with red gowns that have 2 black stripes on the sleeves in a red cap. They look super sharp. I think it's going to look really nice on the field and in photographs. And I think it's just a really great way to to talk about Campbell as one class, having that one color. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I have a question. I believe I sent you pictures of seniors last year who looked like curtain rods with strings or cords upon cords. One of my friends had cords. Lily Adamakis had cords like out to here. Are you doing cords again this year? Are there gonna be sashes?
There's stoles for some things and cords for others. You can be the person to decide who doesn't get recognized at graduation if you want to.
What does that mean?
So who gets cords and who doesn't? You can decide who's important enough.
But
to do it.
everybody got cords last year.
Not
Well,
every-
not everybody. Tommy didn't get any, well, he had one.
Correct,
But for
so-
whatever he put on.
Clubs, honor societies, there are
Well,
different
I went to
things
my
that have-
niece's graduation and the honor society had backwards facing ones and I
Some do
thought that
that,
looked
yeah.
really sharp.
There's a
Not that
million-
my niece had one.
There's a million ways to do graduation. I've changed one thing already. I'm gonna wait to see how graduation goes before I shake up anything else.
I just thought there were
hypothetically.
way too many cords last year for the overachievers. Could you mix it up with maybe a string of lights? I don't know.
I like
I-
the red. I think that's
The red and black sounds fabulous.
They look
I like
sharp.
the uniformity.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
Yeah, I applaud this change. I think,
I'm trying to remember what it was
been a
last
long
year.
time
It was
coming.
black
red
and
and
red.
black.
And red.
Girls
So,
wore red,
yeah.
boys wore
And
black.
again, something I want to avoid. From my perspective, this had nothing to do with boys and girls. I wanted the class to be one unified class at graduation. I thought this was a great way to do it. If there's fringe benefits that happen because of it, awesome. My approach was uniformity and bringing a class together.
I like the set, that
Yeah.
looked really sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, to me, it's a
And it
great,
won't be as hot if it's sunny and 90, so.
It's gonna be at night, 6 o'clock. Just wait, bring your sunglasses.
Yeah.
all right, so next, I see that Kathleen Follis is here. I think you're probably representing, and you brought some folks with you. So if you want to come up and we'll talk about the field trip request.
And then we'll have public input, if anyone wants to input publicly. Well, we don't
So you have a field trip request in front of you for the robotics team to go to a competition down in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a very detailed report. And so we're looking for approval. This is a new trip. They have not gone to this competition before, so they're here to ask for the board's permission. Kathleen, if you want to introduce your students with you tonight?
Hi, so we are Potential Energy, your CHS robotics team. This is Bridget and Nathan. Bridget is the lead of our business department and also part of our mechanical department, and Nathan is one of our programmers. And so essentially, to chime in with Mr. Hess's extracurriculars that are coming up, we are in the prime robotics season. And so we have our 2 competitions that we go to, and then, you aim to go farther, but generally we go to these 2 competitions. They are Friday load-in for the robot, Saturday and Sunday are all-day competitions. So we're there at 7:30 in the morning, it goes until 7:30 at night. Traditionally, we try to get as close as we can. Bedford, we've been in Bedford before. Unfortunately, we didn't make it into UNH because it was with the band trip, so we lost half of our program. So last year we ended up, one was at WPI, one was in Revere, Mass. And that is a long trip when you're on a bus and you have to leave here at 6 in the morning. We'd be here at 5:45. And you're not coming back until 8:39 at night to get up and do it the next morning. We're back here at 5:45 in the morning. We're gone all day. You don't get back until Sunday night, and then the kids are back in school Monday morning. This year, unfortunately, then we ended up with our one trip is in Reading, Mass, which isn't bad, but our second one we're assigned Hartford, Connecticut. And so this is why we are asking that this year you allow us to go overnight, because in order for us to do back and forth, you're talking a 2.25 hour trip without traffic or any other issues. And so you're talking, the kids are up at 3:30 in the morning and we're not getting back until 10 at night to turn around and do it again. It's a long day at the competition. The kids are going all day long. It involves everything from getting our robot inspected to out on the competition field to when the robot breaks and the team is repairing it and programming doesn't work. So we have to make some adjustments or we're back on the field competing, and so it goes for a long stretch. So we are requesting, we have arranged a tentative stay at the, it's all in front of you, I assume you all got it, but at the Hampton Inn in East Hartford, they've blocked off 10 rooms. We have 11 students that are potentially going, and most of them we've already received a permission slip that's included in the packet. We have 5 mentors that are going, a mix of male and female, to cover all of the students. We would have up to 4 kids in a room, split by gender. And we are been fortunate in the sense where over the last couple of years with COVID, the state of New Hampshire has been very giving, along with First Robotics, so they've given us some grants that we've been able to pool because we weren't able to compete for a while. And so we have this pot of money that we are using so that we can offset the cost to the kids, and we are not asking you to provide any of it. And we're also going with, the hotel has a continental breakfast, so breakfast is covered for the kids. Lunch we will provide as a, the students are on their own because traditionally they are on their own anyways for lunch, and then we will cover as a team their dinner because this is a big hardship for a family and we don't want to put that on them. So, questions?
I will make a motion to approve the overnight stay for the FRC Week 5 competition in Hartford, Connecticut.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
One question. In the proposal is that we are able to use public transportation to go from the hotel to the event, because to keep the bus down there, it is a fortune. I just want to make sure that that is in the approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out, because it's a
Yes.
little bit unique, but
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they rent a van? Is it because it's a school trip, they have to take a school bus? No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
So by our liability policy,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
You would have to have somebody with a CDL to drive the van, is my understanding of the laws, because
Okay.
they would be operating it, so.
Okay.
But under your law, as long as it's a commercial line and the public transportation is part of the commercial line, we were told.
Awesome.
So, yeah, so we'll do a little,
Congratulations and good luck.
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Kathleen, can you just clarify too, you've got 5 chaperones, you're one of them.
Yes.
Can you just, at some point, make sure that everybody's gone through the criminal background check? So remember, as designated volunteers and overnight chaperones, that they need to have done that. I know some of them are the coaches who have,
Yep.
but just make sure all 5 are good to go.
The only one that I have questions on would be Mary, but I know she's reached out to Mr. Hess to get that all set up, and she's just waiting to hear back from you to make sure that it's all set.
Yep, perfect.
I'm not
And your
worried about
questions about Mary are whether she's done it. You don't
I
have-
know she's done it at some point, yeah, she just had come.
The question is that she's no longer an employee of the district, so does that carry over, or does she need to redo it?
Gotcha.
So that's where that question lies, but everyone else is all set as far as I know, because vetting stays for a couple of years. Dave was vetted last year, Dwayne was vetted last year, I'm an employee of the district, and Jason was vetted last year, so I can speak for all of them.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you for that.
Good luck.
Yep.
Thank you.
Public comment. Anyone? Go to close community comment. Correspondence.
Buckle your seatbelts. This is 2 weeks worth of correspondence, so if anyone wants a bathroom break, feel free to, now's the time.
Tea bags out of my.
Okay, January 18th, 2023, again, we're back to January 18th because we didn't read correspondence on the, I know.
4 weeks.
Agreed. So this is 4 weeks of correspondence. Dr. Jetty emailed the school board circulating PowerPoint slides on culture and climate. On January 22nd, Mary Woodman, Director of Curriculum, Instruction and Assessment, emailed circulating NHSBA outline for guidelines with submitting testimony for New Hampshire legislative hearings. On January 22nd, Ms. McDonald emailed to the school board several House bills being heard this week relating to building aid, HB 332, 541, and 546. There were responses by Ms. Harrison, Ms. Hirschberger, Ms. Widman, and Dr. Jetty. On January 23rd, Ms. Harrison emailed the board circulating a letter drafted in support of increasing building aid. There were responses by Heidi Ames, Tara Hirschberger, and Ms. McDonald, and this was submitted to the House Finance Committee on January 23rd, 2023. On January 23rd, Ms. McDonald emailed the school board circulating a video from Londonderry that summarizes what cuts would be made to Londonderry schools if their default budget passed. There were responses from Tara Hirschberger and Mr. Totten. On the 24th of January, Mr. Totten emailed the school board regarding January 30th being the last day to post warrant articles, confirming that ours will be ready to be signed and posted later this week, and the school board will need to come in to sign them. January 25th, Mr. Totten emailed circulating PDFs of the warrant, the default, and the MS-27 and requesting signature. On the 27th of January, I always get her name, Anna Morardi. How do I say?
Anna Morardi.
Anna Morardi. Anna Morardi. Circulated the register of invoices. On the 27th, Barb, the assistant to the superintendent, circulated the February 1st draft agenda. January 28th, I emailed the school board regarding a confidential personnel matter. On January 30th. And
Anna Morardi.
Anna Morardi recirculated the register of invoices, scanning them in the right direction, which we appreciate, so thank you, Ann. January 31st, Debbie Rice, community member, emailed regarding concerns about LMS students being required to retake iReady testing from January. There were responses by Ms. Rice and Dr. Jetty. On February 2nd, Lauren Crowley circulated an invite to the Wellness Committee. On February 2nd, Elizabeth McDonald, chair, emailed the board regarding an additional non-meeting to plan our approach to deliberative, such as who presents which articles. There were responses by Ms. Hirschberger, Mr. Totten, Ms. Ames, Mr. Cutter, Ms. Harrison, and Dr. Jetty. The meeting resulted in being scheduled for February 6th at 6:30, which already happened. February 3rd, Jan Sullivan circulated the minutes from February 1st. On February 3rd, Ms. Frost, Monica Frost, a community member, emailed with concerns regarding the behaviors of a student at GMS. There was a response by Dr. Jetty and Ms. Frost. On February 4th, Ms. McDonald emailed to the board confirmation of the date and time of the non-meeting. There was a discussion of location of the meeting, CHS Library versus Town Hall, and recording for public viewing versus just being open to the public to attend. There were responses by Mr. Cutter, Ms. McDonald, and Ms. Hirschberger. On February 6th, Ms. Crowley emailed the board seeking suggestions for increasing wellness committee membership and circulating a brief survey. February 6th, Dr. Jetty emailed the board circulating draft slides for the deliberative session. February 6th, Mr. Totten emailed the board circulating balances of the expendable trust funds and capital reserves fund of SAU 27. On February 7th, 2023, Ms. Follis, Kathleen Follis, who was just here, a community member, wrote requesting the full proposed 2024 operating budget be posted for review, and there was a response by Dr. Jetty, and it was posted on February 8th. February 8th, Melissa Reiki, community member, emailed requesting assistance in finding meeting minutes since November 2022. There was a response by Dr. Jetty. On February 8th, the board was invited by Carrie Momney, 7th grade language arts teacher, to attend the Living Museum presentation and displays. On February 10th, Ms. Inamorati emailed circulating the register of invoices in the manifest. On February 10th, Ms. McDonald emailed the board regarding the swearing in of a moderator for school deliberative. There were responses by Dr. Jetty and Mr. Cutter. February 10th, Dr. Jetty emailed the board circulating an email from legal regarding the legal procedure for electing a moderator for school deliberative. On February 10th, Ms. Reiki again emailed the board with feedback regarding the location of the minutes and then with questions about where to locate state testing results, and Dr. Jetty responded. On February 10th, Barb Boleski emailed circulating the draft agenda for tonight's meeting. On February 13th, Mr. Cutter emailed the board circulating the draft policy regarding special education underspend for review and placement on the agenda, and that was responded to by Dr. Jetty. February 13th, Ms. Inamorati circulated, I'm getting it now, 4th time, it's a charm, circulating registers and manifest. February 15th, Dr. Jetty emailed the board circulating the select board's meeting from Monday and requesting that we watch a 10-minute portion. February 15th, our student rep emailed circulating the Winter Wellness Committee newsletter, and that was at 4:47, so you're up to date.
That was great, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm out of breath just listening to you.
I'm drinking water now.
Oh, sorry.
You're up.
All right. Closed comment, correspondence, general business. Superintendent's report.
So just want to check in with the board. We have March 15th forum that is still on the calendar. We've talked about having that as a competency-based grading event, and I just wanted to check in with the board again. These are board forums. I'm willing to do some work with Ms. Widman to pull together some information that we would present, but you know, ultimately we haven't done one. We've talked about it, but we haven't actually done one, so I'm not clear on the format or where you would like to have it. Is it presentation style? Is it a roundtable discussion? I'm looking for some guidance on how you want us to plan.
I really liked the one at the 8th grade in the cafeteria. For some reason, I liked that squared, like we all could see each other, but I don't know if this is the way we should do it.
Location aside, can we talk about scope? Like, what's our objective for this? Is it if I reflect back to a meeting in January when we had a brief conversation about curriculum and grading, is it to pick up where we left off with that conversation? Or what are we going to achieve with this forum?
I think parents still have a lot of questions, and this would be a perfect place for them to get all together and have their questions answered in one place.
So is it just open forum
I think
Q&A?
that, but also, like for me as a parent, just trying to figure out Power School as well, and you know,
See, I think that's a separate meeting. I don't know.
I think the
I don't know
goal
if it would-
overall
yeah,
of the
to me they're tied
forums.
in.
Grading?
Well, I just mean for like the forums themselves, why we came up with this in the first place was, I think we thought that the forum we had last July, in the auditorium related, was it last July or 2 Julys ago? But,
The
related to,
CRT.
it was about CRT, and that whole situation was a really great forum to allow people to speak, ask questions, have that interface between groups. And so I think that was the goal when we set these out on the calendar to begin with. I don't know that they necessarily want to hear from the school board, though. I think they want to hear from Ms. Widman. If it's about competency-based grading, I think they want to hear what it's about and be able to ask questions and give opinions. I mean,
just
you know.
from a scheduling perspective, when is Screenagers now scheduled for? Is that the same month?
March 29th?
Yeah, I lost track of that date change, but we'll,
I just don't want to take away from that. you
no,
know?
good call.
Yeah.
But this is not the session where the board can get comfortable with how grading and competencies and all that works in the schools, or is it?
I think it's a good overview.
It's
of-
going to be an overview. I think it's for both the board to hear as well as for parents to hear and be able to ask questions and give opinions. And so I think it's both. It's going to give a background. The way I'm picturing it is it's going to give a background, but also allow the opportunity for community input.
We should point people toward I mean, Mary has come here multiple times to present on it. If we could just find those dates, and then we highlight where you can get information about them. You know what I mean? I don't feel like we need to reinvent the wheel in terms of those basic presentations.
Right, and she's been doing, I think, weekly posts on her Facebook
Yeah.
page. If that information can get shared again, I think that's a good.
I think it's more parents don't understand why we're doing it this way.
Right.
There's a lack of,
Me being one of them,
yeah,
right?
So.
But again, I think if we put together that, like, here are the available, maybe it's just a one sheet or a
It should
you know,
be on the-
document with different links to initially get people on the same page, right? Here are the resources we have available. This is what has already gone out there
it's on the
about it.
webpage. It's already on our school district
Right.
page.
But I like the idea of kind of presenting it with, this is upcoming. If you want to look up, you
It's
know.
kind of not all in one spot, like
Right,
you
these are the
know.
resources that we have available right now. You know, if you want
Bring
to
your
familiarize
questions.
with yourself
Right.
and come ready for discussion and questions.
Mary had done that brochure too, so that's another resource, right?
So here's
Again,
what-
I think it's great that Mary has done these.
Yeah.
Miss Woodman has done these, but I don't think people have seen them. I really,
Yeah.
and even if we sit there and point them to these videos, a forum, a face-to-face to be able to ask questions and sort of have it as a competency-based grading 101. Like, this is the basics of it, this is the why, and I know she's done videos of it, so hopefully preparation wouldn't take that long, but I feel like going back to that basic level of this is why we're doing it, and this is why it's part of the district, and this is where we're hoping to get to, here's where we are now, and then opening it up will provide that baseline of hopefully interest that people will then pay attention more to the videos going forward.
But there's a
Yeah, I
difference
think both are
between
necessary.
competency and competency grading. They're two
They're two
different
different-
things,
yeah,
which
agreed.
some people don't understand. It took me like 2 years to understand it.
Right.
Here's what I've heard, see if I got this right. I'm envisioning a district invite to everybody with a list of resources that they can look at in advance, so we just
Right.
include them. Here's some videos, et cetera. I'm
That will help
envisioning,
spur questions too.
And-
Yeah.
so they come, there's some background knowledge for them. I'm envisioning maybe the library, because we can do like a round table sort of thing. We've got a presentation screen. I'm envisioning that
What
Mary's,
if more people show up than
we could
the
always move to the
auditorium?
Yeah, but I think the library is a little bit more intimate. I don't think we'll have the same crowd that we had for the July meeting, but, yeah, actually, the July meeting, we could have fit in the library. It's not,
You think?
yeah, I think so.
Not like a lot of
I mean, people spread out in the auditorium, but when you really boil it down, I think we could have. I'm envisioning that Mary starts with a 15-minute overview presentation of some sort that assumes nobody read anything in advance. So we sort of pick that up, and then we open the floor to dialogue and discussion. And I think what I'm hearing is that even though the board's there, you're maybe wearing your parent hat more than your board member hat. And so you're there to engage and understand where we are.
And to listen, and to hear what parents have to say on it too, in a
Because
more
The board hat
relaxed.
side.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
Listening with the board hat, maybe speaking on a parent.
Board-wise, it's for me to evaluate whether this makes sense for our town and for the school district going forward, right? I don't know enough about it either way.
Yep.
Right, and so I'd like that opportunity.
have you have a child at the middle school and they're being graded on competencies?
Yes,
Do you look how they're graded?
every day.
Do you understand it?
No. And every
That's a
teacher,
problem.
and every teacher does it differently.
That's
Every
my-
teacher
mhm.
does it differently.
Yeah, and some are full, yeah. I'm with Andrew on
Part
this
of my
one.
confusion.
All right, so was my summary okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
what I'm gonna plug
Yeah.
ahead on, because
So it sounds like it's important to have the forum. We still
Yes.
want it. I think we're a little bit more clear on scope.
We want parent input.
And I'm okay if this isn't, a hugely populated, a
Right.
ton of people come. Even if we only engage 10 parents, I'm excited to be able to engage 10 parents in a forum that's outside of maybe them feeling overwhelmed coming to a school board meeting and being able to
Right.
sort of have those hear what they have to say.
Or write in a letter.
Yeah, I mean, however they want to do it, but I'm hoping that this is a topic that is pretty relevant right now. And
Yeah.
Do we have
Can we get it
students come and
recorded?
speak?
Can we get it recorded?
I can check with TV, sure.
Can we have students come? What if students wanna come?
It's not limited to
they can watch.
Okay,
parents,
Do-
sure.
I saw
Okay.
that you had your
I
hand.
was just gonna say,
Yeah.
when we talk about competency, and I think Mary does a really good job at this, we're talking about what competency looks like in Litchfield. If you
Yeah.
Google competency education,
It's
you're
different
gonna get a
everywhere.
slew of things. Mary does a really nice job saying competencies in Litchfield, so I think that we just have to, that's a good thing to try to keep clear as we talk about, because if you can, well, why don't we do it this way? Because, Liz, you've said a million times, they do it differently at Hudson than we do.
But I've been through this for 5 years and I'm still frustrated 5 years later.
And that, I think that's okay. I mean, we wanna clear that up, obviously. I'm just more so for the townspeople. I like that we're gonna point them to our resources for how we're doing competencies in Litchfield and not saying, go Google competency education.
Because every-
And then
yep.
come and say, why aren't we doing it this way? That was my only thought.
Yeah, agreed.
Are the teachers gonna be represented at this?
It would be open to all,
Yeah.
so sure.
It's a
If teachers
forum.
come. So
We'll
it's a-
come, we'll come. I
Yeah.
don't think teachers' voice has really been heard as far as how competencies are functioning in the district. And I think that's a really important piece. We're the ones working with the competencies.
Mm-hmm.
So.
open for the same as I said before. I want to listen. I want to hear what people have to say.
I would love to, teachers would love to communicate to you guys, but we can't because there's a policy made that we can't communicate directly with you guys. So that, I think that's a big issue. I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm just saying that's an issue. If we could communicate directly with you, you would have heard a lot of stuff a while ago. We can't because an old policy was dusted off.
So,
That we can't communicate directly with you. So I think that's a larger issue. I'm just saying. Because I tell you what, the competencies in the district, I'm with you, Liz, for 5 years. I'm still waiting to figure out what we're doing.
so if you have a group of teachers that are coming, can you give us how many people will be coming so we know whether we should be in the library or, because I know probably 10 parents who want to go or don't need help.
I think there's probably a lot of teachers who feel like we've been dying to, because we're not being heard as far as competencies go. Not Jake. This is Jake's new tenure, and it's not. And I'm not saying it because he's sitting by me.
Do you think we should have a separate session for the
I was
teachers?
just thinking that, yeah. Because
I
it's
think
gonna be a different
It's
gonna be a different conversation.
We have something at the high school that Mary runs, but we haven't had a lot of meetings, and I just feel like we don't feel like we're not on the same page, and everyone's using it differently, the competency. So I would love to directly communicate to you how.
I think we need to just clarify this because my understanding is these were parent community forums.
Right.
I think if there are personnel with concerns, there are protocols that are in place and they should be following those to bring that forward, right? So, and you know, I've been in the business 32 years. Teachers have always graded differently. I was a chemistry teacher and so was Sally Allard, and Sally graded differently than I did, and the kids still got a grade in chemistry. Same course. It was calculated differently between me and her. That's always been the case. So it's not unusual to hear that
But
teachers
that's on a
are
scale of 1 to 100, not 30s and 4s. That's where the confusion is.
understood, but I'm just saying that there has always been teacher-driven decisions about grading. I mean, that's just
Right.
the nature of it. We've all had
That's also-
college
There's
courses.
two different,
That's also
I
something
think
that's
there's
been taken out of
two
our
different,
hand. We can't
Okay,
use-
this
right,
is.
there's two
okay.
different,
For
yeah,
those
there's
watching on
different-
TV
two
and-
different issues
Okay.
going on here,
So
okay?
we want a
one
community
is-
forum.
yeah.
Yeah, just
And
sorry.
we
For
want-
those watching on TV,
Okay.
right, and for those who were trying to put a face with the voice, we have Mr. Keefe sitting in our audience tonight, LEA president, who was offering some comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we want a community forum.
Yes, I will plug ahead on that. Second thing is I wanted an opportunity to debrief deliberative with the board. So we have the draft minutes that have come in. Were they shared with the board?
No.
No. So I've reviewed those, have offered some comments back to our minute taker, and have had a conversation with Terry Briand to make sure that we got the minutes done correctly. So those will be available fairly soon because they're pretty well done. But I'm just curious if there were things about deliberative that you want to capture now, because we're not going to remember them next January when we're planning.
I would like to clarify something, that it was said that the budget committee does not get our line by line, we don't share our financials with them. That is not true. They get our financials, and in fact, they are on, our new budget's online now. It said, one of the members said they don't know what we do with the money, but they do know because they got the spreadsheets with everything. We're not holding anything back from the budget committee. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, I just wanted to thank the school board members for presenting while I was out of the country. Thank you to Heidi for voting as my backup for the budget committee
Okay.
afterward.
You did a great job.
So I watched it this week, and to me, it was clear that most people want us to move forward, and there are definitely some people in town who are having a hard time with doing that. But to me, it was, the point was well made to avoid cutting off our nose to spite our face, right? That we need to get past this and move forward. I thought Mr. Mitchell's comment about giving GMS a chance every day was very appropriate.
Yeah.
I think that it was really actually eye-opening, even for me, to hear teachers talk about the conditions in which they work at GMS. And I think the point about people leaving the school system because, as the person pointed out, the perception that it is not an adequate facility, I think is a very real, consideration and useful feedback. So those for me were some of the takeaways.
Well, I think we all did great presenting. I think everybody, we were one team. Doug came through again. Everyone loves Doug.
Can I just come back to format? I mean, we went back to the stage, which was new. Remember, we've been 2 years in the gym. The year prior to that, we were in the pit with not on the stage. The screen is in the front of the stage, so that was a limitation. I tested it out in advance. It was very readable. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that
think what
projector was
happened
nice.
like
It's the new
5 years
projector.
ago is that they used the band shells to project onto. They didn't project onto that back screen. And I think that the band shells are not as,
Distorted or
yeah,
something.
Yeah.
they're not smooth. Maybe, they're probably not smooth because they absorb sound or redirect sound. So anyway, I think that was possibly the problem because that was fine. That was readable from everywhere in the room.
Those look good.
So anything else about the format? I did personally, I just like, I like it to be clean, like getting to the mic is clean. And I felt like, it's our budget. We're doing the majority of presenting and we're crossing the stage continually. And the number of times Doug came back to his seat or Doug had to consult with the attorney, like there's
But
some
we were keeping
sequencing
it
thing
the
that isn't quite
same way the
right.
town did. Maybe next, consistency wise, and that was suggested.
All right, so I have one small thing watching the video. The school board was up there talking, and I did not like the budget committee behind the school board because you could
Yeah.
see faces and reactions, and
Oh, really?
I
I
thought
don't
that
watch
just
any.
from a viewing perspective, I didn't
Interesting.
like that.
We had actually set it up the opposite, so
Yep, that was me.
the board was on the other side, and then it got changed for some reason. I don't know why, but it got
Because
legal wanted to be
Be
near
the-
the moderator,
that's why.
or the moderator wanted to be near legal, one or the other, but it was in order for legal to be able to communicate with the moderator.
That is,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the reason. It's all coming
So we
back.
need to think about that because, and we also need legal to communicate with us. There were things that we needed to hear from legal on, so we'll just have to think about the right way to do all that. Anything else on the setup? 'Cause
I just think we were all too smushed. Like, it's too bad they couldn't put the podiums closer to the middle, because we were all jammed up against that wall.
The
It was-
But
problem
then
is
you wouldn't
you're-
see the screen.
Yeah.
in the projector.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
My recommendation on,
$1,000, I can retrofit that whole space.
I'd like to see an opportunity where we do it again collectively on the same day as the town. And not two separate days for deliberative and asking people to come out twice. That's my feedback.
I think if we,
It would
how
have been
how
a
long
long
did?
day.
I like it better
It's
2
kinda nice
days.
to break it up.
So we started at 10 and we were done at
One.
One.
1:15.
1, yeah, it was a little after 1, I think. The town started at 10 and they were done at
Afternoon,
the previous.
12:15.
12-ish, yeah.
I feel like it was a couple hours.
So I think that's the other
Long
piece
day.
is
It'll be
that
till
last year
10 till
we
4.
thought we had left enough time in between. They bled into each other, which is, it's one more factor, so.
I just think it's a really long day.
It's a
and I'm
very
only
long
on-
day.
I also just wanted to thank folks for coming out because I thought the attendance was fantastic.
Me too.
Better than I've seen in prior years. So, if having it on separate days, was a problem for some people, we definitely had some good attendance despite that. And, again, we really, maybe we plan and we try and start working on the deliberative date earlier if we want to be on the same day as the town, because the problem was our legal could not do the day before, that Saturday before.
I get it.
But the town didn't want to wait to do it with us on the 11th, which I can understand. They have every right to do that, but that's what resulted in the separate days, so.
And I'll just ask the question, why 10? Could you do a 9 o'clock start? I don't know. What is it about 10?
Yeah, that's
The
good.
problem I have with deliberative in general is that you're asking parents in town who
Have basketball.
have kids who are in
dance.
extracurricular activities to at a specific time to come and be there, and I think it's incredibly difficult.
It was incredibly difficult impacting 2 weekends with sport events.
Yeah.
Which is part of my reason I think one makes sense.
But nobody has an answer to why 10. Just
No.
okay.
Maybe it's just set up for LCTV. I have no idea.
The way we've always done it.
Okay. So I mean, plenty of time, but if we don't have this dialogue, it'll be here before we know it, so I'll plug ahead. So 2 other follow-ups. Voter guide. I see that Kim Kleiner is working on the town portion of the voter guide. Michelle always did that for us, and so thoughts on how to conquer the school side of the voter guide. And then we've got to figure out with the town, because Michelle also was the one who organized it, mailed it, prepared it, did all of that stuff. And we don't have that resource currently, so that's a piece that we've got to figure out. But I'm assuming, I mean, people like the voter guide, and I'm assuming
Love
the
it.
board
It's
wants to plug
important
ahead.
that we submit something. that
And
we
I
put
have 2
together.
new voters that it's important. Yeah.
What's the cost of producing a voter guide?
It's not inexpensive.
Split it with
And
the
we
town.
have, it's interesting because, so here's what's interesting. I
What's
think
the
we
school portion of the cost?
Well, we share it 50/50 with the town, so whatever it costs, we split. But it's interesting because Michelle did all the labor, all the work, other than the writing. I mean, the town wrote their portion of it. It's not even a halfway, because I think they have like 20 warrant articles or some high number, and lately we've had a small number of warrant articles, so I don't want to get into nickeling and diming over, cost per letter kind of thing, but the point is, it's a good question, Andrew. We got to figure that out.
I'd be happy to take a stab at it if the board is amenable. I can work with Kim. Something to send out.
Is it just a matter of putting our articles in a guide? What other context are we providing?
So it's the articles are clean, I mean, that's a copy and paste
Yeah.
job, that's easy, right? It's the narrative
Description,
describing
yeah.
it, right? That is, and it should be neutral, it's not, you're not supposed to be persuasive in the writing of it, so that's a trick to make sure that you get correct. And then, I mean, everything from, I think she would take it to the printer, she may have even picked them up, brought them back, I think our office
Folded them.
folded, stacked, organized, and then she brought them to the post office for delivery. So, there was that task that also went into it, so, so we have to figure that out. So if you get a phone call to say, we need help collating or running around the table or whatever, maybe it's I don't know, let's see if Mr.
I could
Perez
help
has
too. I'm
some
happy to help.
voluntold to help us maybe, so, in the high school.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to plug ahead on that. And then the other question was the mailer. The board at one point had talked about a one-pager. Last year we did a mailer that was separate relative to warrant Article 6, mainly responding to misinformation that was being put out there.
Could we do a postcard this year and a video, for example, like a postcard that has a QR code that would go to the video, like the example that was circulated around?
I think Facebook reaches a ton of people too.
Yeah.
So Doug and I started to storyboard a little bit, preliminary storyboarding of a video. If you had a chance to look at that awesome middle school video, that really inspired sort of
Yeah.
the idea about how we would maybe plug ahead on something. But, yeah, so anyway.
I
it's
just think that's a great way to tell the story.
I like the idea that.
Concise, it was less than 5 minutes. It explained the operating versus the default budget.
Oh, the Londonderry one? Yeah.
We looked at 2 documents, the Londonderry video, and there's also the Londonderry one-pager. And so we're trying to develop that, but maybe a postcard, because that would be relatively inexpensive to send. And so maybe a postcard with 2 QR codes on it, here's a brief video, and here's a link to a one-pager that summarizes.
So
one suggestion, and this is a side note, but if we're going to do a mailer, I would love to see some sort of plug on there for enrolling your kiddo in kindergarten, because it's around the same time period. There are families that are not GMS fans, so if this is gonna be their first 3 or 4 or 5-year-old that are not part of our email list or, Facebook, this would be a way to sort of say, I don't think we've done that before, and it might be a help to get us a more accurate number for kindergarten. And if we're sending it out anyway, it can just
Yep.
be a corner, but
Good idea.
A little corner.
So did we have consensus on Tara and I working on a narrative?
That's fine. I'm balancing the cost, right? And everything we just heard earlier tonight about how this is money that we could use to reimburse students. I mean, we have 5 articles. Do we really need to invest in this?
The money was
The
taken
difference
out of the
bet-
school,
yeah.
was it taken out of the SAU budget or the school district budget? The school board budget?
There's
I'm sorry.
$2,500 set aside for mailers for this, I believe it's this purpose.
I really like, I really like
Yes.
the voter guides. There's,
I think a lot of people do.
and
think
I
they
see
rely
a
on
lot of people
I
with
would have
them
a hard
stuffed in
time
their back
saying no
I
to
pocket.
think it's a
that.
good idea for Article 1 and Article 2. Do we need to include, like, Articles 3 and 5? I mean,
Well, the-
Articles 1 and 2 are the main articles, right?
For the mailer, are you talking about the mailer or the voter guide? The voter guide always includes all of the warrant articles.
The mailer.
Okay.
I agree with the mailer being just 1 and 2. That's.
Yeah, well, I actually think the mailer is,
But if the mailer just has a QR code, then what's
Yeah.
the point? You might as well just put all,
I-
because you're
I-
just linking to it.
I think it's a reminder of
Yeah.
when voting is,
Yeah.
right? So that's information.
Right.
Yep.
I think we have a video explaining the difference between the operating and the default QR code. Here's a one-pager that summarizes what could happen if the default is the budget.
Which
But-
Londonderry
but maybe-
had.
But maybe there's a reminder on there that our entire warrant is uncontested. All items are recommended by the school board and the budget committee, right? Everything
Was that
is.
the final votes?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on some level, it's, we have support of the people who have buckled in. And my understanding with the mailer is that's what people really want to know. Like, so they vote by the budget committee recommendation,
Yeah.
or they vote by the board recommendation. So they want that with them, so.
I think people who have a hard time understanding the legalese of the RSA mandated language of the warrant, I think they appreciate, I
In
certainly
English?
do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the explanation and what it means.
Because sometimes they're worded tricky that you think
Right.
yes is a no and no is a yes.
Right, so I think that's important.
I wouldn't want to take the risk not doing
Right.
the communication that we've done in the past, given the operating versus default budget this year. It's too important.
All right, there's your direction.
All right, thank you for that. Couple of other quick things, I've added these, but I need the feedback. So dress code, it's February. Before we know it, it's going to be warming up and we're gonna be hitting dress code. What I'd like to do is get our dress code committee back together to review where we are with dress code. I think we need to either reaffirm it with our parents, that this is what we're doing, or if there are things in the dress code that we now are thinking twice about, let's have that dialogue now, because I'm already hearing that we're not consistent between the 3 schools, and so I think we need to double down on, this is the dress code, and we need consistency, or if there's space within that to adjust, let's make the adjustment. So, I'm looking at you, who was on it last time or wants to do
I
it this
was on
time?
Tina was on it.
But I know Heidi wants to go.
I was going to be on it when we talked about possibly bringing it back up again, but if you want it.
Nope.
It's a great committee, Tina.
I know, and I did
so-
it before.
If everybody's okay, we're gonna set that up. Heidi will represent the board if you're fine with that. I'm gonna try to get the same students who were involved last time so that they come back to the table. And we'll just re-engage around the dress
Are
code.
there parent reps?
There were.
I feel like there were parent reps last time too, that we can either the same ones or try
gonna
for new ones.
Start with that list, and then if we have to supplement it, because, we could have had somebody graduate, but.
And then obviously is their teacher and,
And students.
Yep.
I mean, the students we said, but there's teachers on there.
Okay, so thank you for that. I'd rather get it done before May or April or whenever,
Yeah, there are a
whenever
lot
the
of-
warrant
Has there been a
comes.
violation or something that's bringing this top of mind?
Yeah,
other than-
there are a significant number of reminders that are being delivered on a daily basis
Okay.
about the dress code. So, styles change. There are things in the dress code that are open to interpretation. So the dress code clearly says no slippers, no slippers. Define a slipper today.
Is that a
when-
crock?
Sorry?
Slippers, like moccasins or
Okay.
anything.
Yeah.
Anything that doesn't have a sole, I think is a hazard.
Like me?
No, yeah, well, that's a
Kidding.
different conversation.
The point
The
is,
slippery ones,
we need to have that dialogue and figure out exactly what we mean by it.
but then
So-
again, they're probably better than flip-flops, so that's why I'm not on it.
All right.
Wish me luck, people.
Godspeed, Heidi.
So,
Jeans
next, I want to talk about our student rep.
Emma Ducharme.
So Emma is with us tonight. Emma's at the table with us tonight. Remember,
Yay.
there's a change in the RSA relative to student reps that went into effect in January. I've sent an email off to the high school and to our board chair. So Emma, thank you. We got to talk about and figure out the exact protocol, because if you read the way the RSA is written, it seems, in the past, we've had students come, present during community, and then leave. It's really not what the RSA is calling for. And so we're going to keep having the dialogue. We want to be sensitive to Emma's time, but just keep in mind that there is a new law that's in effect. The Superintendent's Association is planning to organize a student representative training for everybody in the region. All the student reps and all the superintendents would get together, and we would provide training into
Those could be
being a student rep at a school board meeting. And the other thing that we've talked about as superintendents is that 2 student reps is better than 1,
Right,
because you get a junior and a senior, and then the junior's making a 2-year commitment. And so you sort of embed that training and
And then one can serve as a
familiarization.
we
backup
used to have
for the
that,
other.
we did have that before COVID. It was Chloe Steiniger.
So did
Yeah.
you volunteer for this role, Emma, or did you get?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We had elections in the spring, I think, well, last year I did.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Who got the short straw? Well, I'm glad you're back.
I'm going to suggest that we add a standing item under general business. So it's got superintendent report, it's got BA report. I think we should have student report there. Not as public comment, but again,
Yeah.
a nod to the new law. It's different now. And so if everybody's okay, we'll add that in.
I really liked your one-pager that went up on Facebook. I think whatever the one Emily did, it really
yeah.
gained a lot of, did you see it on the Campbell page? Did anyone see it? I thought it was really great.
Yeah.
If you could
What are
share
you
that.
talking about?
It was when you were on vacation.
Is it the Cougar Current thing?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That
Very
was-
eye-catching.
Yeah.
One last thing is that on Monday, 5 of us attended a conference called Visible Learning. 2 excellent speakers, so it was Mary Widman, it was Dan, Sophia, Jen, and I. And we heard, so John Hattie, who is an outstanding researcher, he's a psychometrician from Australia. What he does is he's a meta-analysis guy. So he looks at all the research that's done on a certain topic, does a meta-analysis, and then assigns an effect size from that research. And he was there to basically tell us things that we do in education that really have no effect. We do them, but they really don't have an impact on student learning, versus the things that you do to get the bang for the buck. And so it was great to hear from him. I'm familiar with his research, but him in person presenting it means a lot more. He began with, oh, so I'm in New Hampshire now, with an Australian accent. School choice, charter schools. You know what the effect size is? 0. No impact on student learning. Then he talked about professional development. He talked about teacher efficacy. And there were a whole host of other things that they spoke of. The other takeaway, John Almerode, who is a professor in James Madison, he said, and I'm going to quote, "If you grade it, it is not a formative assessment." Let me repeat that. If you assign a grade to the body of work, it is not a formative assessment. And that got us all looking at each other saying, interesting. because we keep having this
Right.
conversation about
Right.
formative counting, and his whole point is they shouldn't be graded to begin with. So more to come on that one, but it was a really good day, and I was glad the team was there, so. That's all I have for you.
Did you guys get any ideas for PD from that? For our teachers?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
there,
good.
there were a lot of ideas, and actually, everything, so the work that we're doing, what Jake was talking about with the PLC work, it's all tied right back in. We're doing the right things, and we just need to keep the dialogue and conversation going.
Awesome.
Were teachers at the table there?
We had the admin team that was there this time. We did not have teachers from Litchfield.
Awesome. Visible Learning Conference. Public minutes, January 18th, 2023.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from January 18th.
Second.
Further discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Make a motion to approve the February 1st non-meeting and the brief public session.
So who can approve the non-meeting since only 2 attended?
I-
Or can we all, because
Do
it
we need
was
to do that?
recorded?
I don't think you need
even
to
know.
approve
Okay.
minutes
Okay.
of nothing, of a meeting, right?
Thank
So-
you.
I have a
Okay.
point of clarification again, just as I go through the non-meeting and the public session meeting where Ms. Hirschberger, you had joined. It seems the non-meeting ended at 6:46, but yet the public session started at 7:30. Was there a 45-minute gap?
It was.
Thank you.
And thank you for the clarification, because I said it was at the end of the non-meeting, and it's not. It's
Yeah,
in
that's
separate-
what threw me
it's in
off. I
that
was like, I
separate
didn't see
document.
it. Yeah.
Oh, you were coming back from the meet.
We knew Tara was coming from her meet, and there was a personnel situation that needed to be addressed.
Just making sure it jives, right? That's not normal, so.
Yep.
No.
It wasn't.
Right.
We said.
The whole thing wasn't normal.
All right.
Um,
Then can I amend my motion then to approve the minutes of the public session?
brief public
The
session?
brief public session.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Did you get a second?
second.
Okay.
Second. All those opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
302.
Got it? 302. Financial operations report.
Yeah, so we have
Mr. Taunton.
a big day coming up this Friday. That's when North Branch leaves for a bit. So the students will be there to kind of celebrate their work too. There's been some very, I'd just say positive people. North Branch seems to hire positive people a lot of times. And so they've been in the hallways, kids have seen them, you know, they are positive around each other, positive around the kids type of thing. So even though there's been a mess there at different times, I'm sure part of it will be sad to see these adults who've been part of their lives in a different way kind of go as well. So that is this Friday. And then again, they will be returning once the kids leave in order to do the work on the kitchen and the cafeteria, which we have asked that to be done a couple weeks before school gets going so the kitchen staff are comfortable leading into the school year. So that is renovation. Questions on that?
No, I just, a little student feedback. I have 2 students at LMS, and I asked them, they said that they didn't even really hear the North Branch work going on compared to the roof. And they were like, oh, this is so much better. They're so much quieter. So even though it was disruptive to the classrooms versus roof work, which isn't disruptive to the classrooms, they noticed it far less. So I think that speaks volumes to North Branch.
That is good to hear. So North Branch went above and beyond to do any loud work after the students left or on the weekends. So they had early mornings, late nights, and weekends that they were doing the louder, especially if they were corner, they're going through concrete. So they definitely planned around the students knowing that that learning was important.
Which I think is fantastic. So I just wanted to throw that out there as kudos to them, because if my kids aren't hearing it, then that, you know, must be a good thing.
That is great. Financial reports, so again, this would have gone over January as for, and there are several reports that are in there, so I don't know if there's questions.
I did have several questions for Mr. Totten on the expense reports, and responses have come in over the last few days, so thank you, Mr. Totten, for your
You're welcome.
responses.
If there's any other further questions, and again, I know it's a lot to take in, so if you have questions, you can always email them to me as well, or give me a call. Anything works. We want to make sure people have the right information.
Thank you, Doug.
So speaking about right information, we have Lauren Crowley coming in soon. I don't know if it's the next one or if the
March
fall-
8th.
March 8th. So as she prepares to kind of present where, food service, anything that you want to make sure that she touches upon or focuses upon,
I'd like to hear more about these vending machines that we talked about.
okay?
Right, I don't believe that was reduced from the budget for next year, but yet there's still one in the budget for this current year for the high school, right? So just, what's the plan for that? How,
Where are we?
yeah, where are we? How's it gonna work?
Yep, great.
Just fill it with ramen.
I would like her to please bring snacks,
Samples, huh?
Samples.
new recipes.
Samples.
And then, in the past, we've seen how her numbers are doing at each school. So
Yep.
just, compared to last year and the year before.
Yeah, so she's been working on numbers for the last several weeks. So comparing to last year in a way, but then also pre-COVID
Right.
also. So when the year that COVID hit, it was a normal school year all the way through January, and that's what we have numbers for this year as well.
March 13th.
Yep, yeah, March, yeah, not a great month.
13th.
So COVID changed everything, especially last year, for every single school had many more students getting lunch and breakfast.
Because they were
Free.
Any
free.
other point before, yeah. So, she'll show you the numbers. So numbers have gone down from last year, which isn't a surprise, but they've been up from before COVID hit. So I'll let her kind of talk more about that, because there's a lot of pride that goes into that, a lot of work that's been from her and her staff. Her staff they've been great. We've been
Is she fully staffed?
I was just
fully
gonna say
staffed the
Right.
whole year.
That's amazing.
Great.
That's a
Great.
kudos.
Which is kudos to
Yeah.
the staff.
I
kudos
liked
to-
hearing her, like what was selling the most and things like that. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
I bet Emma could tell us.
I don't really buy much lunch. I eat from home.
Yeah, seniors don't even.
It works out because I have a double early release on a couple days a week, so I just go and eat my lunch.
Yeah.
Double early release.
Yeah.
How do I sign up for that?
Ask Michael McDonald.
yeah, so definitely reach out to us if you want anything else but she's definitely gonna bring the numbers. We talked about the vending machine, and then what's selling the most, I think, is a good thing to know as well, especially at each school.
Sounds great.
Great. Andrew, did you have any committees this week?
We did meet on the website committee. There are continued updates to the beta new website. More to come. There's still a lot more updates happening. That committee is now running every other week.
Oh, good.
And so, yeah, that's starting to move in a positive direction. I think as reported in January, the idea is that we'll have something new to launch on around the start of the new year.
Did you send over the demo of the? I vaguely remember seeing something come over, but I just couldn't find the link today. I was looking for it. Is there a?
I can share it with you right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to check the wellness page because, in particular, because I had sent over a bunch of stuff to put on it to Michelle.
For the new website?
For the new website, I had
Okay.
kind of mapped out the wellness page with a lot of content. So I will check that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tina, did you have any meetings this week?
We have not had facilities improvement.
Cancel.
Since I was sick last meeting, there was a PERC meeting, short one. We just, approved the book A Long Way Gone by Ishmael Bay. It's for world literature, which is a 10th grade. It's about, it encompasses hope, courage, and perseverance. So that's the only thing I went to. It was at the end of January.
Grading reporting's next week, so I will report back next week.
Tara?
Budget committee, no meetings, but I would just like, since actually the next meeting is going to be my last meeting on the school board, I want to make sure we close the gap on any other remaining questions that are open for the budget committee on that spreadsheet if we can, you know?
I thought we had them all. Are there still some open?
Yeah, there's still
we'll-
some.
we'll
But
circle
I
back
feel
to-
like many probably have been answered in the presentations and, But I think that there are still some that are just on there.
There were
So-
there were remaining questions from, I think Carrie had asked questions about the project that had been answered over time, and we asked her to kind of, okay, can you just ask the questions again? Like, what are you still not clear on? They might still be showing on there, so
They might still. So, I mean, anything you feel like has already been answered, maybe we could just identify that.
yeah, definitely.
Or point to a
Want it
previous
all to be
answer. But yeah, I just want to make sure that that's closed out. We have an emergency management meeting tomorrow. And, Emma, would you like to give an update on, we had a small group, but a wellness committee meeting
Yeah.
that met a couple days ago.
Yeah, so basically we are gonna try to do some sort of small event to kind of get the wellness committee out there to hopefully bring in some new members and to actually build a solid committee. For my newsletter, I attached kind of like 2 challenge calendars in a sense for people to do on their own. So we're thinking about doing something like similar to that and having it be across the 3 schools and hopefully including some sort of rewards or prizes to people who complete it, or probably possibly doing it for each class. And our goal is to do it for April, I believe, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and I actually brought, I'll pass these around in case you didn't see them. They're linked in her newsletter that she sent around, and so I'm gonna go through it and just try to do it this month, so I circled some things. So that's just an example. And we thought an event tied to that would be perfect because this is something that Emma has brought to the table here along with the newsletter. And,
Try
you know,
Zumba.
it supports
Are you teaching
that.
Zumba's fun.
So those are fun. Let's see what else. No, I think you got. Oh, so we're also going to be looking for somebody to take over her newsletter, like a kind of a legacy plan, right? Maybe somebody else would be interested, an upcoming senior would be interested in doing it as their senior project next year. Emma already has the Canva format
yeah.
already created, so you know, the structure's there, which is kind of nice. And Lauren's been updating she's put a few things on the current wellness page that weren't there before, so she's trying to get that updated. And I think that's all.
Great. New business. Have you all had a chance to look at the draft calendar?
Yes.
What do you think?
So basically, it's the same
as
calendar.
last year.
It's the same calendar as last year. The way the holidays fall, everything is the same. One thing I do want to point out is the month of November. So November 7th is not an election day because it's 2023. There's no federal elections, there's no state elections. It's a non-election year. So we moved the parent-teacher conferences to Thursday, which will actually allow parents, some will take a 4-day weekend because they'll have their parent-teacher conference on Wednesday night, and then they'll have the day off for parent-teacher conferences, followed by Veterans Day observed, because Veterans Day is on a Saturday. So it was a way to have November be a little less choppy. The teachers, we met with the Teachers Association, and Patrick and Stacy supported that because it gave a little more time for teachers to prepare for the conferences. They felt a little rushed this year when it was grades closed on Thursday and conferences were Monday, Tuesday. So I think it was a win-win for everybody. Otherwise, not much to see here. If it all goes well, we'll be out on the 12th of June. And
Anticipated first day of school, Dr. Jetty?
Pardon me?
Anticipated first day of school.
So we would have our new teachers come in on Monday the 21st. You'll notice another thing that's new with this calendar is it no longer says teacher workshop day. It says professional development because we're now offering opportunities to all our staff.
Right.
And so you'll notice that all staff will be attending on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It doesn't say teachers, it says all staff. And so students would come back on Monday the 28th, and we would have 4 days of school in August. And then we would have a 4-day weekend for Labor Day, and then we hit the ground running with September.
I really like those 4-day weekends. This builds up the stamina. And preschool starts on 9/5. I know people are anxious to plan vacations, and it's already been put out there. August 28th.
I would like to bring up one thing for consideration. The winter holiday break seemed extraordinarily short. And looking at the absence rates from the Friday before the December, before Christmas, we had an absence rate at CHS at 26%. The middle school was 23%. Griffin was 9%. So
That was a snow day, too, by the way.
the 23rd.
There was a weather.
It was,
Because I remember the question was whether or not we were going to send or not, and I remember
Yeah.
thinking all the parents at home who want to wrap really want their kids gone for the day. So that might have been a combo.
we also had the,
One
but
at
all
the
the
other
snacks are prepared, the
For the
classroom
party.
parties,
Yes.
all that. And so, I don't remember if that was the day that it took you an hour to drive across town. Was it that?
So
day?
it wasn't a remote day, but it was weather.
It was
Oh,
weather.
okay.
Yeah.
It was
All
weather
right.
driven.
I didn't so much.
But still, it felt like it was very
It did feel
that
short.
1 week felt very short. I would also like to point out that this year's calendar, we have the advantage of the leap year. So we're actually ending school 2 days later than last year. And also we're using less snow days overall because they can be remote days. So
You want?
I would advocate for having 12/23 be that Friday before Christmas also be.
12/22.
Sorry, I'm looking at last year.
We also-
The 12/22.
See, I would do the 2nd instead of the 22nd.
We also had significant COVID in all three schools the week of 12/19.
Yes, that was the only week that all three schools were red.
That's right.
So how does the rest of the board feel about that?
I would,
Adding in the 22nd or the 2nd?
Friday.
I would be more comfortable with the 2nd than the 22nd. Just because there's so much going on the 22nd. I don't know. Means getting out earlier.
I mean, the reality,
It's a
my
Friday.
initial reaction when I looked at this, and you must have updated the all staff from teacher workshop today. Right, I printed out this morning, it says teacher workshop.
Yeah, I asked Barbara to get that
That's fine.
updated and linked,
So,
yep.
but the reality is, over the past few years, we haven't had snow days, or if we did, it's
Right.
one. So we're accounting for 4. So are we really losing anything by adding an extra day off?
Well,
Yeah, and just to clarify, the accounting for 4, so the state requires us to say, if we have 4, when would we end?
Okay.
So you should look at the 12th, the 180th day.
right.
Count on no snow days, because the clause at the bottom, I did change it, so it says, any cancellation days will be made up in June unless remote learning days. The public wants that one
Of course
good
they do.
old-fashioned snow
Right.
day.
At least.
Ending on a Wednesday allows us to have 2 of those.
Exactly.
If you add another day in, you're adding one to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think trickling into the next week and impacting the 17th, talk about, you're gonna have horrible attendance if you have a Monday as the last half day.
Right.
So, I would do everything I could to end on that Friday, the 14th.
Is a teacher's day 2 days after?
No,
Oh,
they're done.
that's-
Why the last day is a half day, because they have a half a day to pack up, clean up, and
Sorry,
get out.
that must be my contract.
Yeah, there's no time at the end for our staff, so.
So do we have to approve this today? Could we put it out for feedback to find out if,
You do not need to vote on it today. It's a public link in our agenda. If the public has commentary, they can give it to you, and we can vote on it next time.
Beyond that, I mean, but, also cognizant of the fact that we send kids to Pinkerton and Alvern, and we have to coordinate with their calendars too.
Correct.
We're aligned for the most part. We're allowed by law to have like 10 days that aren't aligned, and we've
Yeah.
got just a couple. One of those being, for whatever reason, I talked to my colleagues, they're all taking Thursday, the 7th of November off. And I'm like, it's not an election day.
Oh.
And they're like, yeah, but we just want to stay in the cycle of taking the first Tuesday of November off. And I'm like, okay.
I like the Thursday much better.
What's weird is you have Tuesday off and you have Friday off. So you have school Monday,
Tuesday,
Wednesday, Thursday.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know, sometimes I overlogic myself, so.
Tara, to answer your question, I like the idea. I lean more towards the 2nd than the 22nd though, so, I guess I would want to hear some feedback.
I think it should be in March, because that's that long drag between March and April vacation. Personally, that's like, just saying. I don't have an opinion either way. Yes, I said that out loud. I do not have an opinion
Well, I
either
feel
way.
like last year we approved the calendar and then there were questions raised by people in the public and then we had to reapprove the calendar, so.
I was
rather-
definitely a part of the board when it was or
It
when
was
approved, yeah.
reapproved, so I feel like maybe letting it be out there publicly for the next couple of weeks and then approving it March 8th.
But didn't you have us going to school 5 days the first week, and that's why you added that Friday in, and that's why we needed to reapprove it?
Yes, that, we got
Yeah.
feedback from the LEA, but now that that's in there,
Yeah.
I'm happy,
If this
I'm
is what
happy
we
with
did
it
this
the way
year, it is what it is.
Contractual to, I think the answer is yes, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is it contractual that we're starting before Labor Day?
So what the contract says is you can't begin more than 7 days before Labor Day. So that's the Monday before Labor Day. So that's why we're starting there. If you take those 4 days away, you add them to the end, and now you're in that week in June. You know, the other thing is, yes, shorter vacation, except you get a wicked long summer vacation because you're front-loading, you know. So historically, we've gone as late as like the 20th, 21st kind of
Yeah.
thing. Now that week is preserved, so that's available, right?
So-
That's a little trade-off.
I feel like we're already ahead because of the snow day situation.
Is Hudson and
helping us.
Pinkerton starting on the 28th too?
Well, hang on.
Show up when they tell me.
I have.
so Bedford is starting.
The 28th?
Everybody's calendars look alike. So Hudson is starting on the 28th.
Yep.
And Pinkerton is starting on, come on, why'd you do this? They are starting on Wednesday with freshmen and juniors, so whatever day the Wednesday is.
Now, do they have any extra dates like January 2nd or?
Pinkerton,
Yeah.
no. No, at Pinkerton.
Andrew, part of the
We
reason-
match
oh,
Pinkerton
sorry.
100%, and then Hudson, come on, everybody's gotta have a different calendar,
I mean,
right?
it seems
We-
great
we
now,
match.
but then you come into the last week of August, like, wow, we're kind of starting to
I
really
know.
why. That's why I'm raising
But then it
Yeah.
goes to the, it's definitely a trade-off, but part of the reason also of getting, you know, part of the rationale is that, sports teams are starting up already at that point in time. And so most people who are going on vacation are already back because of that.
I think-
Obviously, that's not everybody.
I think football starts like August 10th, and the rest of the sports start August 14th. So athletic families at the high school are,
Yeah.
you're right, they're back in. They're not going
And
anywhere.
other kids are at the beach. All right, so can we table this for
Yeah.
our next meeting? And
Good.
we'll move ahead.
We'll bring it back.
You have something to say?
No, I'm
Okay, awesome. Policy,
Yeah, so we met briefly today to review. There are two policies that we talked about, the special education funding and the wellness policy. So the wellness policy will come forward next meeting, March 8th.
was that with you, Andrew?
Andrew couldn't make it.
Okay.
But, because the time shifted to
Yep.
being a little
Okay.
bit later. So the wellness policy will come the same day that Lauren Crowley is coming to present anyway, so it ties in well with having her
Nice.
here, to present on that. And the wellness committee has already done a lot of work, prepping that. So that'll come forward. And then the special education funding, when did we decide? I can't remember where we landed on that.
I think we were gonna, so I formatted it into policy format. And weren't we looking to edit some of the background
yeah.
information?
Yeah, we were gonna do a tweak, but then have it on the next agenda as well. I think those two policies can come forward for March 8th.
Generate a list of 5-year accomplishments?
So, kind of, here's what I was reflecting on as I sat quietly on the stage on Saturday, is that I do hear concerns from people, but I also am pretty proud of things that we've gotten done. And I think sometimes we have not taken the time to generate a list of what have we accomplished over the last 5 years. As as a school district. You know, and I point out that the warrant is going forward uncontested because I have reasons why I think that's happening, and I think what we need to do is spend some time generating that list of achievements that we have made over the last 5 years. Because we can easily get caught up into didn't, could have, should have, and yet, as a school district, we're actually on a really good trajectory, and I think are making a lot of positive gains. And writing that down, reducing it to a list of things that we have achieved, I think is important. And so I don't know the best way to do that, but I wanted us to talk about it as a new business item because there's a lot of things that are made and there's a lot of negativity in social media, and yet it's not all bad. So, thoughts on how to proceed?
I started making that actually a couple months ago when I was speaking to a community group. So I think everybody should have access to those notes actually. But sure I copied you, but I don't know. So I can do that, and that could be at least a starting point.
Is it a Google Doc?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if we share that as a starting point. And then
Yeah,
start
I mean, it would have to be cleaned up because there were a lot of other things I had put on there just to remind me of, you know, kind of things that were going on and things I wanted to cover, and I tend to write out a lot of things. So anyway,
You're gonna share that with all of us?
yeah, I'll
Okay.
reshare it. I mean,
Can we
there's
add to it?
there's probably more in there that you want.
If we all can have.
Or maybe I
editing.
just start a new one and
Editing.
pull over the stuff I think is relevant because it was like 2 pages, you know.
Okay. And we all can comment on it? Is it open for every?
Yes,
Awesome.
yes, yeah. I'll look at it again.
Great. Old business, we went over Jacob Hess's things already. COVID plan. Oh, God. Sorry.
Yeah, so just the COVID
Sorry.
numbers. Did I update the link? Tell me I did.
So it looks like the archive data is now available on the website, which is great. Let's see how we
And so if you,
fared.
just quickly to walk through it with everybody, there is a high number that's showing up in terms of student absences, but it was the frigid weather day. So
Yeah.
there were clearly families who kept their children home, or maybe high schoolers who chose to stay home because it was so cold on Friday the 3rd. But GMS numbers, COVID-wise, relatively contained, and the absence rates are hovering low and medium. If we go to LMS, again, I have to fill these in. The last couple of days it's been medium, but you'll notice no staff COVID cases that are reported.
There are
and
lots of
only
bugs going around.
a student here or there. And at the high school, there are no staff COVID. We had 1 staff COVID on Monday, and then the absence rates are also in the medium range. So we're doing okay
Great.
relative to COVID.
Upcoming surveys, timeline is the week of March 6th.
Yeah, so if you remember, I think this goes back to January 18th, that we talked about having, maybe it was February 1st, somewhere in there, that we were going to do the surveys. The goal originally was to get those surveys sent out next week, but we need a little more time. So we're going to actually begin the survey process
After vacation?
after
Yeah.
vacation. But remember, the board was asked to consider these as academic surveys. And the board didn't really take action because I think you wanted to wait and see if people had, I mean, now parents have the link to all the survey questions, everything's there. And I did not hear from anybody with objections, and I don't think the board
I
did
have
either.
not.
I didn't hear it in the correspondence piece. So we want to proceed ahead. These are academic surveys, which means that we would allow parents to opt out, but we would not go through the process of having everybody opt in. And the other thing that I included, I think that LMS video is absolutely wonderful. And I know there is one at the other 2 schools. I haven't seen it yet, but it's the same concept. And the fact that students are speaking to their peers, encouraging them to do the survey, and putting it into context, I think is just amazing.
Do
So
we have parental permission?
from the,
It's,
You don't need it for academics.
It's
don't need it
It's
to opt
No, for the
out.
video.
I'm assuming we do because it's gonna be,
Video recordings.
Oh.
of the
it's
kids.
gonna be shown to,
I'm just asking. I don't want any parents to come, did you ask my permission for my kid? to
They
be in
should
the
be
video?"
cross-referencing that.
me-
Every
let me-
picture that goes out in social media, it
just double
absolutely
check that. But I
should be
think that the
cross-referenced.
blanket permission is what would cover it, but I'm gonna double check it with, Jen to make sure.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, it's a smart move. So if you're okay, we're gonna plug ahead.
Video was
and-
great.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, I
phenomenal.
did watch the video, I liked it.
So if I may, contrasting the Londonderry video, so what that video said to me is a bunch of people making one point, to me is more powerful than a principal talking for a minute and a half. Right? So I'm trying to figure out how to figure that balance out. And what I'm talking about is the video for our, the community about the budget. So originally I was thinking of duplicating what Londonderry did, and now I'm thinking more people involved, making pointed statements, is perhaps a better way to proceed, so,
Excellent.
all right. If I may, so there's one thing I forgot, I'm sorry. Front page of the Union Leader today.
Didn't see it.
Governor Sununu, in his State of the Union essay, announced that he wants to increase state building aid from $50 million to $75 million. So, now again, that's the governor's opening posture. It's $25 million more.
Be my school board comment. It's all right, go ahead.
But the reason it's important is this. That means that, that would cover Concord. It would not cover Litchfield. So you need 85 million for it to be available to us next year. And I just want to say that out loud because, Tina, you wrote that fabulous letter. I think a second letter to the governor, thanking him for this, pointing out that for just 10 million more, you know.
No, I can do that, and I wanted to ask the board too, when I submitted that letter, it was to the House Finance Committee as testimony for that hearing. I haven't sent it to our state reps. But I would like to. And I also would like to encourage community members to reach out and to our state reps and ask that they advocate on our behalf.
I personally think we have to keep advocating. Kyle's take on it is that if we're looking at the next biennium, and if Concord gets funded this one, we're not number 2, we're number 1. So, you know, but that's again assuming that the rules don't change and there's at least $50 million advocated, then we would be number 1 to get the first 10. Roughly, we think those are the numbers, but I think we have to continue to be active and keep promoting it. And, you know, frankly, if there is more money there, because there is a gap. The top 5, and then there's a big area where nobody's points are, and then
Correct.
you sort of get 6 and everybody else. I think it's 5 schools that really should be funded this time around. And I'm not saying that selfishly as we're number 5. It's obvious when you look at the list. There are 5 projects that need to be done.
I'm happy to take another stab at it. I'll circulate it to the board.
Great.
Thank you.
School board comments. Andrew? Tina? Anybody?
I'm hearing some rumors, I don't know what you want to call it, of school board members meeting with the SAU without board awareness. And I'd like just to get ahead of that and address it. And I don't know if it's happening, it's not happening, I'm just hearing it. And I want to put it out there in the event that it is happening. It should be the board meeting with SAU and members of the SAU staff, and not direct members individually meeting with these individuals.
We meet regularly with Dr. Jetty to do agenda prep. We've done that all along. Is that what you mean?
Not chair or vice chair.
Okay.
I met with Mike to discuss deliberative slides and what we're presenting.
Again, I don't know the context of it. I'm just hearing that there might be some meetings happening within the SAU office, and I'd like to get ahead of it.
Well, it kind of brings up what Patrick said. Patrick can't come directly to us. We can't go directly to Patrick because you have to come through me and through Mike, and he has to go through Jake and then you and then to us.
Well, it depends on the nature of the question, right? I mean, he should be solving things at the lowest level possible. So if there's a grading question, goes to Jake, because that's where that resides. You know, it wasn't a policy that was dusted off. I will say that it's been long-standing protocols, and it's not unusual. It's what I've had in every district I've been involved in. Did you have similar expectations or protocols to follow?
Yeah, I think you always try to start at the lowest level, so, yeah.
So, I mean, it's just the way organizations are structured and run.
And I haven't met with any of my son's teachers other than conferences. And I was wearing my parent hat. All right.
I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. I'm thinking about it because on the one hand, I feel like we need to be able to have conversations. You know, if you have a budgetary question, like you email Doug and ask him questions about the manifest, right? Or you go in and you have a meeting with Doug if you had questions about the manifest. I wouldn't want to hinder that for you to be able to get your questions answered. But, then you can go the other way.
When you brought that up, I was like, well, are you copying anybody? Has anybody seen with those questions? Because I think that it's actually beneficial for.
I just got the responses today. I'm glad to forward it to you.
Yeah, but no, I think, I mean, when I joined the board, all communication went through Brian
Yeah.
to everybody.
And that's how it worked in the budget
And we
committee
had
as well.
pushback on that. There was pushback on that.
From who?
And
Was it
so, I mean, just as the board, I don't even remember. I don't know.
No.
Maybe it was part
No.
of it. I feel like it might have been me too, but I wasn't the only one. It just didn't seem, I don't know. It didn't seem direct, you know?
We have to wear two hats.
So, you know, my practice has been, you know, I send it, if I have a question for Doug, you know, I'll copy you. And then you know, so I'm always copying the chair on whatever I do. So
I did that even with teacher communication to cover myself and the teacher.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of checked out. Sorry, Michael.
but I mean, I wouldn't have any occasion to meet with somebody that's not related to school board or
I mean,
a
the board
committee.
superintendent relations policy says, right, we meet with the superintendent. We shouldn't be meeting directly with staff without the superintendent present. That's what the policy says. I just want to make sure that that's actually what's happening. Right? That's the intention for raising this.
I think, but there are questions, I mean, you take the manifest questions, those go directly to Doug, he can answer them, and.
I'm not meeting with him in person. I'm shooting him an email. Right? That's the difference.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we met earlier in the year, though, me and you, which I would welcome anybody. I mean,
For the
selfishly.
MS-27 process, which the board was aware of.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I would want anybody to be able to come to see me, because I want to make sure everyone has the right information. Whether that's email or whether that's in person, whether that's on the phone call, because, you know, some information is more complicated, and email isn't always the best.
As long as there's awareness, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what kind of threw me off. Like, I had no awareness of some of these other meetings, and I'm like, what the heck? So,
Okay. You have any other comments?
Nope.
Tina?
Nope.
Heidi?
I was just gonna, I already said it, but I want to thank people for coming out for deliberative. I recognize it's a tough day, particularly for our parents who have kids, with
Busy.
extracurricular. Yeah. It's
Busy
one thing to ask parents to
Saturdays.
come out and vote any time that works for their schedule, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's another thing to say, please be here at this day and time, for a purpose. And so, to
No
those-
beginning, no end time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate the parents who came out, and town members, community members, and even non-parents who came out. So I think, I remain concerned. I think you alluded to it earlier. Tara, about our relationship with other boards. I really think we need to get that meeting between, the chairs of the budget committee, the select board, and the school board. Get a date on the calendar for that meeting. We've proposed it. I know things got busy, but, you know, watching that selectmen's meeting on Monday was pretty disheartening to see some of the comments that were made, and,
I didn't see it, so.
okay.
Yeah.
I would
I'll
suggest
follow
watching
you.
it.
Watch it.
I have a.
I would
when
suggest
you're done,
watching
I'll
it
finish, but-
because there was a reference made to a school board
board
member
member.
Yep.
confirming something and having a conversation with a select board member, and it wasn't me. So
No.
I have concerns just in general of how do we, I think the town wants to move on. How do we put this to bed and
Yeah.
with
No personal attacks.
the chairs of the other boards, what else needs to be done to restore confidence? Or is it literally, there isn't anything that can be done, it's just going to be time? And that may be the answer, but I feel like I want to have that conversation, or have Liz have that conversation with Chairman Weber and Chairman Sun, so that we can really try to mend fences, because we're not, you know, getting those impact fees as of right now. Even though I felt like Doug did a very clear presentation to us on January, I believe it was the 12th, where he outlined how he came to that $470,000 number for the amount that we need for the capital projects. And when he was going through and concluded on that number, he included the impact fees as being that we were asking for them and hopefully going to be receiving them. And to hear that the thought is that we're double dipping is a concern for me, because that meeting, I thought it was pretty clear that we were not double dipping. So where's the disconnect? Because obviously, and I'm struggling.
Disconnect that the 50,000 thereabouts
52,
right,
yeah.
is in our budget, and then if we receive the impact fee, then we're essentially getting the money that we've already budgeted for. Is
So I
that-
think the great thing about having the budget online, which this year's budget's been online for over a year, is that everyone can look at it. And what's budgeted for the middle school project is $195,000, where the lease payment is $363,000. So we're asking for the impact fee money, which is roughly around $50,000, which wouldn't be a double dip, because there is a divide between what is in the budget and then how much the lease is.
Isn't this year one of the lease payment, though?
Huh?
Isn't
This is year one of the lease payment.
So it
When
should
is
be
that due, by the way?
195,000.
No, it's $363,000.
But it was presented at deliberative last year as 195,000.
With money coming from savings, which was mainly attributed to energy savings, where
Everyone
no
buys
one
them.
saw at that time that energy costs were gonna be going up. So not only do we not have energy savings to make up the difference, we are actually finding money to pay for all of our energy for this year, because it's gonna be over budget.
So we are not double dipping.
We are not double dipping.
So, yeah, because the warrant article raised and appropriated the 195.
Right.
Right, so that was additional money.
But it was-
And then the rest of the money, we were really clear with everybody,
Yep.
you know, energy savings at the high school. Energy savings at the middle school.
Impact.
Some energy savings at the elementary school. Impact fees were on there. We had those on there. And the other thing was, you know, again, people are forgetting, we got rid of the portables. We saved $40,000 by not having the portables any longer. And all of those savings were making up the extra money toward the 363 payment, which we always were clear, it was a 363 payment. The other thing that I found disheartening about it is we're doing exactly what the town has done. So the town,
Yeah, exactly.
It
That's
is.
where the idea came from, because they did
town-
it for the fire station.
and so there's a voter-approved project that's in the budget, paying for the bond for the fire station, and they used impact fees for it. So we're like, what a great idea, let's do the same thing. And here we are, we're in a holding pattern.
I guess
So-
I'd like to better understand the double standard. aspect, or the double dipping
Did you
aspect.
get his email? Did you get?
I've
So
been
I
meaning-
do have a pointed question. Is there somebody on this board that spoke to Mr. Leary and said that they agreed with it being a double cost? I'd like to know, a double dip.
Nope.
Wasn't, he said he spoke to someone on this school board.
Yep.
And he spoke to Chairman
And
Sung.
that would have been surprising to me because I went back and looked at the minutes from January 18th. All of us voted for that. So, okay.
My point of bringing it up, though, besides the fact to clear up that it isn't a double dip, is to say that we need to. I know there's only so much we can do, but I want to continue to reach out to try to bridge this gap somehow, because to hear statements at deliberative that we're not sharing our line by line budget with
Which
the budget committee,
Wasn't true.
as well as that we're double dipping on
Wasn't
things
true.
when
There was
there's.
also a comment at deliberative, right, about, you and I looked at each other for this one, about how there are new positions being asked for that are included in the operating budget,
There were not.
It's false.
right, which was a false statement, right? So there were other areas of misrepresentation.
I think we need to clarify those things because people do. When someone who is involved in it states facts like that, they need to be fact checked, because that makes us seem like we're not being transparent.
And my concern was there was no
And it wasn't the time to
discussion
bring
with
it
the
up.
rest of the select board. You know, this one select board member was saying these things, and it was accepted as truth. So that,
I don't think it was the time to get up.
Well, there
and-
was another select board member that made a comment about they haven't heard what is happening with the independent auditor, if one's been hired yet, haven't seen any action on it.
We've had no responses to it
But
at last check.
I know, but
Post
it indicated like we had done nothing, and that's not true.
Can you just update us on where we are with that? Because I asked
Yeah.
Doug today, and I
Sure,
Yeah.
I haven't seen, has anybody seen any responses? I have not, but we
I
got,
don't know where responses are coming in to, or where they would
it
come
would be
into.
school board.
Okay.
School board
so
at
all of us would
Litchfield
get that
SD,
in our
yes,
email.
that's what we decided. And, it was pushed out 30 days, so I believe it takes us to March 15th.
so we did an initial posting
Yeah.
and a deadline for proposals,
January
and
15th,
you received how
we
many?
we received 0
Even though we promoted
Yep,
it
we
widely
promoted
and
it.
far, it was
Yep.
on the
on
town
our website, on the
websites.
WhatsApp page, on the school board page.
So you reposted it,
Yep,
and it closes when? March?
March 15th.
But we have not heard from anybody.
Not
So-
heard from anybody.
So if
Yes.
there's anybody who wants to bid on it,
Yep,
March
please
15th is the
do.
deadline.
But again, I come back to what can we do to fix this? And I don't know the answer to it, and I don't know that we can resolve it tonight, but I am very concerned as we look at Article 1, whether that's going to pass or not in town, and our credibility as school board members is continuing to be questioned.
Well,
How do-
and if I may, I was personally attacked in that conversation.
I stopped watching it.
And, the thing I'm just gonna point out is that when the
On
town.
Monday, in Monday's meeting?
Yes.
Yep.
Again, I haven't seen it.
When the town comes forward with concerns, and I don't want to get into, some of this is security-related information that I don't think we want to, broadcast, but when the town comes forward with concerns, we sit down and we have a conversation, and we sort of say, okay, we understand that's not the way you wanted it to go, but here's the reality, here's what we need as a school, let's work together and try to figure this out. Everything that we do from the school side, in my opinion, is in the spirit of cooperation, understanding. It's not ideal, but here's how we plug ahead. I would just ask for the same thing, and you keep saying time, but time resets every time you're bashed and every time you're trashed. It goes back to 0. We're back to square one when that occurs. So time is not going to help when we keep hitting the reset button on it. So
As a school
I
board
don't know how to
chair,
proceed.
I don't know if Tina
you guys
decides
went
to
to the
go off
selectmen
on
meeting.
something, that's your opinion. And I'm not gonna stop you if that's what's going on there. Cause it's on all boards.
What? Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Like,
I
if
missed
you
that.
have, there are certain people on boards that just have their agenda and they go forward, and unless they cross a line, it's not, you can't call it back. You can't say stop, and it's my opinion, I'm a school board member, so
Yep.
yeah, I don't know, couldn't finish watching it.
Well, my action step, sorry, I took a bite of a banana.
Yeah, I'll
And I'm
definitely have to
talking
watch
again. My action step for at least tonight is, can we reach out to try to see if we can get that 3 chairs, or whether it's chairs and vice chairs, whatever it is, can we try and see if we can get a date on the calendar to have some conversations? Because I feel like there needs to be some of that collaboration.
I think we need to send something to Chairman's son too, because he was
identified.
identified as someone saying it was in the budget.
That's
That
a
there's a clarity, there's something,
Is there a misconception about the impact fees being applied for this year versus next year? The way I'm hearing this conversation go is it sounds like there's
clarified.
but it sounds like there's a misconception amongst all the boards and committees and whatever about where that money is actually going to be applied to and what it's for.
their legal said it was fine,
Yeah, their legal said it was an
approved use.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit, because I think the letter was really clear that it was for the payment due in March.
for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
This
It
current
was.
year.
Yeah.
Yep. There was a question about that, but Ms. Kleiner clarified it because Doug had clarified.
And she had their legal look at it, and she started the whole conversation.
Right.
So, yeah, my letter starts off by saying on April 26, 2023, the first payment of the Litchfield Middle School municipal lease will be due. And then it says, the amount of the payment and the purpose of this letter is to request a release of $52,148 from impact fees associated with Litchfield Middle School. These impact fees will be used to offset part of this first payment.
And in your email today, it wasn't denied, it was tabled.
It was tabled
Till
to.
after the election.
Correct.
The
Right.
election.
Because the only
With the-
way they would consider approving them is if Article 1 fails.
Right. That was said at the meeting.
If Article 1 fails, then they won't be double dipping, was what was said.
So that, they indicated that they would vote to approve it if the default passes.
And I
doesn't
appreciate it because
seem-
Ms. Kleiner emailed me back and she
Oh,
was
sure.
asking for the lease agreement with payment schedule, which I got for her because I agree with them. You want to check with lawyers
Mm-hmm. Right.
to make sure that everything's okay because at the end of the day, you're talking about using money.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that she did that. I got the information that she needed over to her, and they had it ready for that meeting.
Okay, well, that was my school board comment, which ended up being long-winded and.
Yeah.
I apologize.
That was mine too,
but-
so we got it together.
All right.
And the only other thing I wanted to add was that I attended the first GMS coffee with the principal, and it was very well attended. At least a dozen people, I think, were there. Nice and casual.
Which
And-
school was, I'm sorry,
GMS.
GMS, okay.
Yeah.
They're all doing coffee, so I can't.
Yeah.
When they serve donuts, I'll go.
Well, this was for parents, you know. I think Jake was mentioning that was for admin, right? For like teachers to come with admin
Oh,
every Friday.
think
He's
it's-
not doing it with. Did he say with parents?
I think you said
All right.
teachers.
I thought it was teachers with admin. Okay, so I attended that, and he showed the new veterans plaque that was
Oh, that was on
that was
Facebook, it was
from donated
amazing.
dollars,
So
which
well, get a
was
chance to
actually
see it, it's
really
amazing.
amazing. It's beautiful.
I could see a
It's-
whole bunch of them
it's a
lined
big
up.
flag, yeah, big wooden flag, and they got a great price on it. And then they're gonna keep the photos that people have submitted to put on the wall annually, because a point was made that, you know, the kids at that age can't read the names on the plaques, you know. So if they have the visual of the photos, it's probably even more meaningful for them. So it's pretty cool.
Great. Anything else?
Nope. Community input, it's 8:00, right?
Community input? Community?
Well, it's
Oscar, anything to say over there? Nope.
7:56. Are we doing manifest?
Oh, yeah, we have to do the manifest. That should be all set with 3 signatures,
These
Doug?
are
So
done.
I did have a question, actually.
Oh, did he not? Oh, all right, go ahead.
So this
Sorry.
is one that wasn't, it was, the breakout was provided, but the details of the breakouts I'm just seeing tonight. And I see an amount of $2,681.60 to the Puritan Backroom. And I can't find any support in this file.
I would
for
guess
it.
the football banquet would be my guess.
Chicken tenders.
Which account is that out of?
Now,
Just taking a stab
Oh,
at
that's
it.
right.
idea.
Yes.
I would think it's out of the football,
It looks like it's
Fundraisers.
It looks like it's to the expense card, the BMO.
Okay,
Yeah,
Does that
I
help?
wonder who was, yeah.
and it doesn't list,
What was the date
It
of
could
it?
be shoved in here somewhere. You saw me.
Does it
flipping
have
through
the
Like,
date?
I didn't see it.
yeah, no, that's okay.
does it have the date?
If we can't get that answer tonight, we'll get it for
That's
you.
fine. It's not listed on this ledger.
I know they had their football
I
banquet
know,
at
it
the
was in
Puritan.
January.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm reading it right. Is it? No, that's purchase order. Never mind. No,
So
it's
that
not.
would have been January 22nd.
Is it up by dollar?
No.
That's the time frame.
We'll get you an answer on that. Your gut is probably right,
Mm.
but that's a lot of chicken fingers, so
It's a lot of boys to feed.
It's a lot of mudslides.
How much was it?
no much.
6,000.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well,
the
parents also
paid.
paid
They
to
paid
go-
for
to go.
themselves,
If
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what it is, right?
Yeah.
Again,
And there-
it's just an expense that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it came out of the student activity fund or not, or if it was, came out from us first and then was reimbursed by the student activity account. So yeah, I'll take a look at it,
It wouldn't be this, wouldn't it be the football account?
which is a.
You're calling it a
activity account.
student activity, okay. I just thought they all had their own.
Any other manifest questions?
Not that I have any other manifest questions?
Was there any other manifests aside from these two?
These already have 3 on it. You can see them though. Yep.
There you go.
Thank you. If somebody else wants to take a look at this, and somebody else can sign it. Well, I have an open question. I don't know. That's when you vote.
That's you.
I'm gonna knock off this.
While we have all this dead time, I went to my first boys' basketball game. Really fun, a lot of community, lots of families, little kids that don't even have basketball players. And I believe they're playing Friday in Hopkinton. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw you there. Were you there on? No, I
wasn't.
saw some. It was fun. I always thought Friday nights basketball was always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the kids had state track meet.
Yeah, I think it was this weekend.
Yeah.
I think somebody placed first for long jump, I think. I can't remember who it was.
I know it was Ava.
But yeah.
Ava Hool, probably DJ, Sean Bowen was there. There were so much going on.
Yeah. Can I just give like a quick update of just stuff going around in school?
Yes.
Awesome.
Look at you picking up.
So student council kind of had a busy week this week. We did Valentine's Day this year. We did chocolate covered strawberries for every student and staff member.
I saw that on, I love that
Yeah.
you guys post pictures of that, yeah.
Yeah. We did the carnations again this year.
How'd
We
that
also-
go? Good?
It went good.
Well?
We did. We opened up to parents too.
Oh, great.
So we probably got, I think, quite a few more sales that way this year too. And then next Wednesday, student council is doing a winter carnival pep rally. We wanted just to find new ways to engage the student body and involve everyone. So we're gonna try to do a couple new things, I think, next week. The environmental club is doing a tree plenish event. It's April 15th. The purpose of this is to offset some of the carbon footprint from the school. I'll be selling different kinds of saplings for $5 each.
Oh, nice.
Great.
It's a great idea.
What do you think of Hess's huddles?
I like it.
Yeah, it's new this year, right?
Yeah, it's fun. I like it. We had one today. I thought it was pretty good.
And he just tells you what's going on, high fives people.
Yeah.
Mrs. Zepan got an award.
Yeah. He also recognized Colonel Frazier.
Oh,
I thought it was very well deserved.
yes, he's a presence.
Yeah.
He was there at the basketball game.
Yeah.
Excellent. We all set?
Yeah, I just handed him the backroom one to see if that gave him any other identifying information on there.
Did you see the detail of it? The actual expense?
No.
I don't
I
see
just
that yet. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just see.
Again, it's likely buried in there. I know it's very thorough. I didn't see it.
Does anybody have that other calendar that I passed around?
Yes, I have it.
Okay. That is mine I'm gonna use. Thank you.
feel like asking Emma a bunch of questions. You feel like you're wrapping up the year, ready to graduate,
Yeah.
making plans for after Campbell?
Yeah.
Good. Good. First one to go.
Next year's my brother.
Next year's your brother. Emma's mother's a teacher in Salem and was friends with Robin Mosnica.
Yeah.
Very good friends. Hi, Sarah.
She's watching at home.
Yeah. So it's definitely for something linked to athletics. I wouldn't, I don't know if it's more in there too. So something with athletics.
Does it have
Is
the
the
date on
date of
there?
it January 22nd?
You probably have the signatures, so I think we're good for tonight.
It would be
I don't
Josh
know.
signing for it, right? If it was a credit card. Was it a credit card?
January 22nd.
January
We've gone
22nd.
through-
It's dated 2/8 because it's a credit card thing, so.
So, I don't know. Well, that's after the banquet, so it would make sense.
I'll sign it so we can be done. So I think is that it?
That's it.
Read the.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Nope.
Non-public session at 8:01. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request will be granted. The hiring of any person as a public employee, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. I don't know if there was a motion or not, but I'll make a motion to go into non-public.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
You have to do a roll call vote.
Roll call. Andrew?
Yes.
What do you think that is? The-
Tina?
Yes.
Liz? Yes. Heidi?
Yes.
And Tara?
Yes.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Emma.
Emma.
Thank you, Emma.